Not long after the semester started, my roommate joined a cycling club full of rich kids. She'd be out riding until midnight every day before coming back to the dorm. Then, she asked us in a hushed, secretive tone, "The team captain wants me to join a nude cycling event out in the wilderness. Should I go?" I was absolutely shocked and immediately urged her not to go. I warned her she could easily get taken advantage of with no way to get help. After my repeated and insistent warnings, my roommate decided against participating in the nude cycling event. Later, another girl in the cycling team started a public romance with the captain. My roommate was so furious that she pushed me down the stairs, killing me. "It's all your fault for ruining my chances, otherwise, I would have married into a wealthy family." When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day when my roommate was hesitating whether to join the nude cycling event. I nodded emphatically. "If you want to go, then go. Do it with confidence." 1. Should I really go to that event or not? Jocelyn's hesitant voice reached my ears. I couldn't help but feel a wave of disorientation. "Of course you can't go. Are you crazy? This is Naked Ride Day, and it doesn't look like they have good intentions." "Exactly, and it's in the middle of nowhere. What if something happens?" Hearing the other two roommates trying their best to dissuade Jocelyn, an unbelievable thought crossed my mind. Could it be that I've really been reborn, Celia? "What do you think?" Jocelyn hesitated and looked at me. "Aren't you into cycling too? It's not that chaotic, right? Sports don't have any gender distinctions. You people just have dirty minds and see everything as filthy." The captain clearly wanted us to break through the gender barriers and truly enjoy cycling. "Tell me, what should I choose?" When Jocelyn asked me, my eyes flickered. In my previous life, I firmly advised him not to try naked cycling. It's too dangerous. Proper cycling doesn't involve any of these ridiculous things. Only someone with truly wicked intentions could come up with a scheme like that, luring a girl out to the middle of nowhere. Who knows what terrible things could happen? After hearing my analysis, Jocelyn grew frightened too. In the end, she hesitantly turned down the team leader's proposal. I thought I was doing him a favor by saving his life, but that ungrateful bastard, after finding out Baron was dating another female teammate, actually pushed me down the stairs to my death. That sleazebag who hits on every girl he sees and pretends to be some rich playboy to show off. Only she would ever see him as a prize, since she and that creep are two of a kind. I might as well let her have her way this time. Thinking this, I smiled and said to her, "Our club's cycling group is indeed very proper. We never engage in any shady games, but I trust your judgment, Jocelyn. Since you believe they have no ulterior motives, you should feel free to join them." With my approval, Jocelyn's face immediately lit up with a beaming smile. "See," Celia said, "it's a legitimate activity. It's just the two of you who have dirty minds." The other two roommates tried to offer well-meaning advice, but after being met with such passive-aggressive sarcasm, they immediately turned pale with anger. "Fine, consider us meddling. If anything happens, it's your own damn fault." Jocelyn snorted coldly, ignoring the two of them, and turned to hug me affectionately. "Celia, what do you think I should wear for the trail ride?" 02. It's true that Jocelyn and I both got into cycling, but I joined the official cycling club at school, while she ended up in this private riding team that a bunch of rich kids put together on their own. I tried to get her to come with me to the club tryouts. She said she wasn't interested in that kind of sport, but then she turned around and joined a private team anyway. I remember the team captain, Baron. The seniors in the club said he's a total creep. He'd hit on and harass any new girl who joined the club. He was kicked out of the club for refusing to change his ways. Now, somehow, he's managed to reinvent himself as the leader of this so-called rich kids cycling team. I tried to warn Jocelyn about it, but she just acted like I was making things up out of jealousy because she got into that exclusive rich kids cycling club. Seeing her reaction, I decided to drop the subject. This so-called cycling team has an absurd number of events. Jocelyn is out riding almost every night and doesn't get back to the dorm until late. Back then, the dorms were already closed, and Jocelyn went to great lengths to beg and flatter, secretly giving the dorm manager quite a few perks. I used to think Jocelyn was truly passionate about cycling, but now I realize it wasn't the cycling she was after. It was clearly to seduce the group of rich second-generation guys in the team. Tonight, the club just happened to have a cycling event. Upon arriving at the meeting point, I realized the members of the rich second-generation cycling team were also there. Baron leered at the female cycling team members' figures one by one before saying with a chuckle, "Since we've run into each other, why don't we all hang out together tonight?" The club president, being a year below Baron, couldn't easily refuse and could only nod in agreement. The club members already knew exactly what kind of guy Baron was. They pedaled their bikes furiously the whole way and vanished from his sight in the blink of an eye. I had lagged behind to watch the drama unfold and immediately became Baron's target. "Oh Celia, back then when our senior invited you to join our cycling team, you didn't come. The senior thought you didn't like cycling, but little did he know you secretly joined the school's cycling club behind his back. What, do you have some issue with the senior or something?" Oily tone, questioning attitude. It's as if I committed a grave sin by refusing to join a private cycling team and choosing to join a legitimate club instead. His staring made me feel extremely uncomfortable, so I quickly shifted the blame elsewhere. "Isn't Jocelyn from our dorm in the senior cycling team? I noticed Jess seems to be struggling a bit, so as the team leader, you should pay more attention to your team members." Perhaps picking up on my hint, Jocelyn let out a soft gasp and abruptly stopped the car. "Captain, Jocelyn's twisted her ankle," she said, looking up at Baron with a pitiful expression. Baron's gaze finally shifted from me to Jocelyn. He walked over to Jocelyn and immediately began feeling her calf. "What happened? Where does it hurt? Let the captain take a look." Without any hesitation, Jocelyn stuck her foot right between his legs. "It's just a sprained ankle. Ouch, it hurts at the slightest touch. What should we do, Captain? Jocelyn might not be able to ride her bike today." Baron instinctively glanced back at me, and I shrugged my shoulders to signal there was nothing I could do. "Why don't you give Jocelyn a ride, Senior? You're the captain, after all. Looking after your teammates is part of the job, right? Captain, we'll leave Jocelyn in your care." Jocelyn immediately seized the opportunity. While Jocelyn wasn't naturally beautiful, she was skilled at grooming and styling herself. With makeup on, she could just about pass for a pretty girl. Baron wasn't one to refuse when a pretty girl threw herself at him. She was seen deliberately pressing her chest tightly against Baron's back, her hands also seeming to wander, almost accidentally, towards his crotch. I couldn't help but marvel at how Jocelyn could go for it, even with Baron's pig-like face and body. After a while, I noticed Jocelyn was rubbing against Baron's back, and his cycling speed was getting slower. "Celia, you go ahead, my bike seems to have some issues." Baron's heavy, excitement-laden voice came from beside me. I shot them a surprised glance. Both of their faces were flushed crimson. A preposterous thought rose in my mind, but then again, one of them organized a naked bike ride, and the other happily agreed to join. What kind of decent people could they possibly be? I didn't even look back, afraid of seeing something that would give me a sty, and immediately stood up, pedaling my bike furiously. Soon, I caught up with the members of the club ahead, as well as a few riders from private cycling teams. "Celia, why are you so slow today?" the club leader casually asked. I quickly said Baron and Jocelyn both had bike issues, and I was waiting for them, which is why I'm so slow. They felt bad holding me up, so they let me move ahead on my own. But I was thinking, we all set out together, it's getting dark now, and if they're left behind on their own, what if something happens? The club president frowned upon hearing this. As the organizer of this cycling trip, he was naturally responsible for everyone's safety, even though the private cycling group had tagged along uninvited. He couldn't just abandon them completely. "You and the others go on ahead. I'll take a few of the guys and go back to check on Baron and the others," I said with a laugh. "If we're going back, let's all go back together. Why split one team into two?" The other club members all nodded in agreement. "Exactly, we're all here to have fun anyway. It's not like there's anything urgent. Let's all go back and take a look." Everyone agreed, so the club president had no choice but to lead us all back the way we came. As we approached a dark stretch of road with no streetlights, an exaggerated woman's scream pierced the air, reaching all of us. Oh crap, could it be some creep assaulting a girl? We were a bunch of hot-blooded college students, right at the age where our sense of justice was strongest. Without a second thought, we charged toward the commotion. "Pervert, let go of that girl." It seemed like the sound of approaching footsteps. Besides the woman's panicked scream, there was also a man's cursing. I pulled out a high-powered flashlight and pressed the switch directly. In an instant, the entire street lit up. In the center of the beam, Jocelyn and Baron appeared under everyone's gaze. Like the leading couple in a play, Baron looked utterly disheveled, both hands holding up his sagging pants. Jocelyn's pants had a large tear, which spread from her thigh under the bright flashlight. Her face of utter humiliation was impossible to hide. The air suddenly grew quiet. The few boys who had charged forward with fierce intent to gang up on the creepy guy now awkwardly retreated. Why is everyone here? Don't misunderstand. Jocelyn fell off her bike and tore her pants. I was just about to sew them up for her. The others remained silent at Baron's flimsy excuse, but I asked with concern, "Jocelyn, are you okay? How did you fall so badly that you tore your pants?" Jocelyn glared at me fiercely. "Who told you to turn on the flashlight? Are you doing this on purpose?" Aren't you? I felt a bit wronged, opened my mouth, but didn't argue, only mumbled, I'm sorry, while saying apologies. A smug smile appeared on my face. You little bitch, you're doing this on purpose. Jocelyn was furious, almost wanting to rush up and hit me. Enough. The president stepped in front of me. You're truly heartless. Celia was clearly worried about you getting into trouble. And who knew you'd do something so disgusting in broad daylight? Although Jocelyn was spoiled and domineering in the dorm, she always managed to present a good image in front of the boys. Feeling the president's blatant disdain and noticing the scornful looks from the other boys around her, she could hardly bear it. You're all ganging up on Jocelyn. She stamped her foot in frustration, turned around, hopped on Baron's bike, and sped off, not even bothering to cover the tear in the back of her pants, for by the time I ambled back to the dorm, Jocelyn was still hiding under her covers, crying. My two roommates shot me a look. One of them pulled out her phone and said, Celia, you might want to see this. Did you upset someone? There are anonymous posts online spreading rumors that you stole someone's boyfriend. I picked up my phone and saw that it was just past 10 p.m., the time when college students' nightlife was just kicking off, and there were countless night owls out there. A post on the school forum had been pushed to the top spot and was still getting replies non-stop. Anonymous user. Can anyone help me? There's a manipulative freshman in our club who deliberately wore short shorts to seduce my boyfriend during a cycling trip. This freshman is a first-year student this year, and I heard she was even voted some kind of campus beauty during military training. She looks gentle and sweet on the surface, but she's actually very calculating. As soon as she joined the club, she started flirting with many senior students. I also heard that she often stays out all night and checks into hotels with different men. If it were just a messy private life, I wouldn't bother, since it's not my place to interfere, but she deliberately dressed very provocatively to seduce him, knowing full well that my boyfriend has a partner. Sob, sob, sob. Can everyone please help me? What should I do? All the boys in the club are on her side, and even my boyfriend says I'm being too petty. Could it really be that I'm overthinking things? A highly manipulative act of playing the victim has garnered support from countless people. What a classic green tea bitch, knowing someone has a girlfriend and still rushing to seduce them. How shameless. You're not overthinking it at all. That couple is definitely up to no good. Is it just me, or does the original poster's statement seem very pointed? Could the green tea bitch she mentioned be the same person I'm thinking of? That seems unlikely. Me too. The moment I heard that, I immediately thought of someone, a freshman, the campus beauty, and a member of the cycling club, besides Celia. There doesn't seem to be anyone else. Celia is the other woman. My roommate was fuming beside me. What's wrong with this person? Spreading rumors the moment they open their mouth. Don't worry, Celia, I'll clap back for you. I stopped her. No need. I'll handle this myself. I glanced up at Jocelyn, who was peeking at me through a gap in the door curtain, then logged into my account to reply to that anonymous poster. Celia, I'm brave enough to deny these claims under my real name. Do you have the guts to come forward and confront me publicly? What kind of coward hides behind a screen, thinking the internet gives you a free pass to slander people? Whose boyfriend did I supposedly seduce? Care to answer that? My appearance in person only made the post blow up even more. Wow, the person in question shows up. Where's the OP? Come out and face off. Unless you're scared. The anonymous poster didn't dare to show up. Only after being endlessly tagged by alumni in the comments did they finally come out and say something vague. You know perfectly well what you did, but their words were quickly proven wrong. First, the president of the cycling club appeared. Don't mess around. Celia is our cycling club's living recruitment icon. She gets along well with the girls and knows her boundaries with the guys. Don't spread rumors just by opening your mouth. All other members of the club also appeared in person to vouch for me, and members with girlfriends called their partners to prove that the poster wasn't them. Finally, my two roommates rolled up their sleeves and started yelling at the poster. Are you out of your mind? Celia comes back to the dorm with us every single day. How come I, as her roommate, have no idea she's constantly staying out all night? That's disgusting. If you've got the guts to say it, don't hide behind anonymity. Apologize to our Celia right now, or we'll see you for defamation. After waiting a moment, that anonymous user straight up deleted their account. My roommate cursed under her breath. Damn it, they deleted the account. So slimy. I should have taken screenshots for evidence earlier. I shook my head indifferently. Don't worry about it. There are plenty of ways to track her down. 5. It was the weekend on the second day. Baron somehow got hold of my contact info and sent me a message saying, last night was all just a big misunderstanding, but regardless, I should thank you for coming all the way back to find us. I've planned a Weekend off-road biking and camping trip. I'll cover all the expenses. Do me the honor of joining us. Beautiful. I didn't hesitate for a second before turning him down. After a while, Jocelyn's phone rang, and I heard her say with a hint of surprise, "Why is the captain calling me?" Afterward, not sure what she heard, her expression turned sour, and she shot me a resentful glance. After hanging up, she came over to me, forcing a strained smile. "Celia, yesterday was my fault, and I apologize." The captain wanted to express his gratitude, so he arranged an outing. "You know, I haven't had fun in ages, so just come along and keep me company." Okay, watching her, clearly fuming but still trying to sweet-talk me, I couldn't help but feel immensely pleased. After she showered me with endless flattery and compliments until her mouth was dry, I finally nodded in agreement. "Sure. I'm curious to see what tricks they have up their sleeves." We arrived at the campsite before dusk. Throughout the journey, Baron acted completely normal, as if he was genuinely just thanking me. It wasn't until the evening. Jocelyn used to love watching TV on my computer, so there's a WeChat login record of hers on my phone. This time, I specifically brought my laptop with me, and while she wasn't paying attention, I logged into her WeChat on my laptop. The scheme Jocelyn and Baron were plotting was directly transmitted to my notebook. I saw a message from Baron in a group named Free Ride. Baron, the main goal of this event is to create an atmosphere of excitement and thrill. The rules are as follows. Overnight accommodation will be intense, with 1 man and 1 woman per tent. Men and women will draw lots to determine the pairings, and the results are final. No switching partners or backing out. Everyone must participate for it to be fun. As soon as the message was posted, the group exploded. Countless guys sent creepy memes and replied received. Jocelyn also sent a suggestive emoji. Jocelyn, who wants to work out with Jocelyn? A few girls in the group raised questions and seemed reluctant to join this activity. They were immediately ganged up on. A group of guys came out to gaslight them in turn. "It's just a game. Don't be such a buzzkill." "Oh, come on, what's the big deal? Every group plays like this. You're just being naive. Don't think we're taking advantage of you. We rich second-generation guys don't lack women. If we have fun, we might even consider making you our girlfriends." The originally protesting girls seemed to be convinced after a round of brainwashing and accusations. Soon, a private chat between Baron and Jocelyn popped up. "Baron, Jocelyn, you need to help me succeed in sleeping with Celia tonight. If this works out, I might consider making you my girlfriend." "Jocelyn, after sleeping with that little slut Celia." "Captain, don't forget about me." "Okay, Baron, don't worry. I'll come for you right after her." "Naughty." "Jocelyn, ugh, you're so annoying." I shuddered violently. These two were using me as part of their game. 6. While having barbecue at night, Jocelyn and Baron kept trying to get me drunk. I just said I'm allergic to alcohol. The others at the table started jeering, all leering as they said, "Come on, gorgeous, do us a favor. Don't tell us you're disrespecting Baron here. What's the harm in just 1 drink?" I immediately pulled out my phone to record. "All right then," I said, "everyone, give me your best line to pressure someone into drinking. I'll save them all. If anything happens to me after I drink, nobody here is getting off the hook." Their faces instantly went pale. After that, no one tried to pressure me to drink. When I returned to the tent, I noticed Baron and Jocelyn exchange a glance. I let out a cold, mocking laugh. "I'm not afraid of you coming. I'm afraid of you not coming." Jocelyn barged into my tent and insisted on sharing my sleeping bag. I didn't mince words. "Get out," worried that being too persistent would aroused my suspicion. Jocelyn had no choice but to leave the tent with a dark scowl, since it was a spot we'd found on the fly. There were plenty of other campers not far away. The cycling group didn't dare make a scene either, biding their time until the dead of night to start their mischief. After everyone had retreated to their tents, I slipped out of mine and headed over to the campsite on the other side. There were 2 campers who were clearly college students. I awkwardly asked them, "The noise from the river above is too loud. Would you mind switching tents with me?" The 2 boys blushed immediately upon seeing me and nodded hesitantly, so I moved directly downstream and comfortably settled into my tent. I was woken up in the middle of the night by an enraged shout. The other campers were also woken up, worried that something had happened, and everyone got up and headed upstream. As soon as I approached upstream, I saw the 2 male students who had swapped tents with me beating up a naked man. "You pervert, you still dare to touch me, I'll beat you to death." Baron was beaten so badly that his fat jiggled all over, and he kept wailing, "Stop hitting me." I went into the wrong tent. I thought it was my girlfriend, but the 2 guys who were utterly disgusted didn't care about his reasons. They beat him until he was bruised and swollen before finally stopping. Only after everyone had left did Jocelyn dare to approach and check on Baron. As soon as she reached him, Baron slapped her across the face. Useless. Jocelyn dared not speak her mind, only grinding her teeth as she asked me, "Celia, why didn't you sleep in this tent?" I looked innocent and said, "It was too noisy here, so I moved. But your tent is right next to mine, so why did you come running from the other side just now?" Jocelyn's face showed a brief moment of panic, and she stammered her way through a vague response. Due to the incident with Baron being beaten, the others lost the mood to continue the game, and the event had to be cut short, but I wasn't about to let them off the hook that easily. I paid a computer expert to hack into Jocelyn's phone and, using her own account, post a screenshot of that cycling group's event message. The caption read, "A free ride, a wonderful night, 7. Jocelyn, thanks to her makeup skills, has become something of a minor internet celebrity at school, with a considerable number of followers." As soon as this post went up, her followers were completely stunned. Due to the outrageous content, countless alumni quickly flocked to check it out. 666, ugly but wild. The cycling community is ruined by scumbags like you. Disgusting. Get out of the cycling community. This is a misunderstanding. We don't engage in such disgusting behavior while cycling. It's clearly a group of people with no moral compass taking advantage of cycling to cause trouble. Didn't Jocelyn claim to be single forever and set up a hates men persona? Yet she's playing around so much in private. Ah, Jocelyn's angry scream echoed from above in the dormitory. My roommate, who had been leaning in close to share the latest gossip, immediately scooted back to her seat and began guiltily reciting, "Abandon, abandon." Jocelyn couldn't be bothered with her. At that moment, salvaging her own precarious reputation was the top priority. She hurriedly jumped out of bed and started applying her makeup on her phone. The post soon returned a 404 error. Then Jocelyn's clarification video appeared. The voice in the video overlapped with Jocelyn's pitiful voice in real life, crying for sympathy, sobbing, "I don't know if I've touched someone's cake, but someone is spreading such rumors about me. The cycling team members are like a family, and it was just a joke. It was taken out of context by malicious individuals to spread rumors. I hope everyone can think critically and not be swayed by those with ill intentions." Avoiding online bullying of innocent victims. In the video, she put on a pitiful, delicate act after her sympathy-baiting video. The hype around this incident finally began to die down. However, her carefully crafted persona as a single woman who despises men completely crumbled, leading to a rapid loss of followers on her account. Seeing her chance to monetize vanish, Jocelyn was so furious she couldn't sleep well and even stopped going on her bike rides. After that whole incident, she was probably scared someone would dig something up on her. She actually quit the cycling club outright. I casually asked her, "Jocelyn, how come you haven't been out cycling lately?" "Why the hell would I go? I just went out for a simple ride and got dragged through the mud with rumors. If I went to a naked bike ride, God only knows what kind of disgusting crap those ignorant, small-minded assholes would come up with." I can't believe she got scared off from joining the naked bike ride just like that. I rolled my eyes. This won't do. The naked bike ride is this weekend. Once you've agreed, there's no backing out. To help Jocelyn recommit to the naked bike ride, I started subtly flaunting my wealth in front of her. "Celia, you don't have much money either, so how can you afford luxury bags?" Jocelyn asked with a hint of jealousy. I smiled shyly. "You know, Baron has been pursuing me. Being a rich second generation is really different. The gifts he casually gives are worth several months of our living expenses." "Baron gave it to you?" Jocelyn's face turned sour. Ignoring her reaction, I continued to boast. "Yes, he even said that if I become his girlfriend, he'd give me a luxury car. It's just a pity he's a bit ugly." I'm so torn. "Jocelyn, what do you think? Should I accept his pursuit?" A greedy glint flashed in Jocelyn's eyes. "Of course you can't accept him. Baron is so ugly." "Celia, a stunning beauty like you could definitely land a tall, rich, and handsome guy. Why settle for less?" "Really? I'll see how he acts. If he can manage to bring me breakfast every day for a week, then I might give him a chance." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Jocelyn, as if having made up her mind, take out her phone and reapply to join the cycling club. A faint smile touched my lips. Late on the weekend, while the other roommates were still sound asleep, Jocelyn quietly slipped out of bed. I peeked down and was shocked to see her take off her underwear and put on a sports bra and miniskirt with nothing underneath. "Jocelyn, what are you doing?" I spoke up suddenly, startling Jocelyn. I'm just heading out for a morning run." "All right, then could you check if Baron has delivered breakfast this morning?" Jocelyn looked even more guilty, mumbled a vague reply with her head down, and hurriedly opened the door to run off. After she left, I got out of bed too. I leisurely went to the cafeteria for breakfast, then opened the live stream and greeted the viewers in the chat. "The weather is pretty nice today, so I've decided to do an outdoor cycling live stream and start sketching once I get there. In my previous life, the Nude cycling event was also captured by a chance passerby and posted online, garnering some attention, but since the photographer kindly blurred the faces, no one was able to identify who was actually involved in the nude cycling. I happened to see that video and used it to comfort Jocelyn, saying, "Good thing you didn't go, or you'd have been filmed and posted online, and now I'm about to become the one filming and posting things online." Knowing the route, I rode along at a leisurely pace, chatting with the live stream audience now and then. After locating the patch of wilderness from the original post, I stopped, started sketching, and pointed my phone camera toward the roadside. Just as we were casually chatting, the number of livestream comments suddenly surged. "Damn, did I just miss something? Naked ride. It really looks like they're naked." Of course, many more were eager to see the drama unfold and kept urging me to follow along. "Host, come closer. I can't see clearly. Broadcasting obscene content is illegal." Of course I'm not that foolish. I just kept my head down, drawing my own drawings, pretending not to see the group of naked cyclists by the roadside. "It's pretty quiet here, and no one's around. Maybe we should stay here." A faint voice reached my ears. I was a bit curious, stood up outside the frame, and was surprised to see the group walking towards the bushes where I was. "The live stream's chat is going crazy. Run. Host, you've encountered a creep. Stop drawing." Stop drawing? What if a group of perverts sees such a beautiful woman? Does anyone know where this is? Hurry up and call the police. The police have been called. They'll be here soon. I instinctively reached for my phone to call the police, only to see the group stop about 20 meters away from me. I couldn't help but feel grateful for my nearsightedness, which automatically blurs people's features. They found an open, empty spot to sit down, and I thought they were just taking a break from riding. To my shock, Jocelyn suddenly sat down on Baron, completely naked, and then, as if no one else was around, they started going at it. Their actions seemed to have flipped a switch, as a group of over a dozen people all started hugging in pairs. I even saw 3 men stacked in a shape resembling the character. I was so stunned that I dropped my paintbrush. The screen was completely covered with comments, all saying, "I'm blind. The host, give me back my eyes." In my stunned state, Jocelyn's breathless voice drifted faintly into my ears. "Baron, I've already gone skinny dipping and done all that outdoor stuff with you. Doesn't that mean I can be your girlfriend?" Baron's flabby flesh jiggled as he let out a particularly lecherous laugh. "When you manage to trick Celia into my bed, then I'll let you be my girlfriend." Then he pushed Jocelyn aside and joined another pair. Jocelyn angrily stomped her foot and turned to squeeze into the state team. A group of people were having a great time when the sound of police sirens approached, followed by a group of officers jumping out of the cars. The depraved scene before them made a young rookie cop throw up on the spot. "Arrest them all for public indecency." 9. As a witness, I was also taken in for questioning. However, since I was live streaming the whole time, the viewers and my can vouch for my innocence. Finally, the female officer asking the question said, "You and Jocelyn were roommates, right? Did you know she was planning to participate in that naked bike ride?" I nodded. "Yes, I knew. Everyone in our dorm was trying to talk her out of it. She even quit the cycling team later on. I have no idea why she suddenly decided to go after all." Sigh. The policewoman shook her head. "I just don't understand what goes through young people's minds these days, to do something like that out in broad daylight." Just then, a young officer rushed in and exclaimed, "A lot of those people are HIV positive." The policewoman frowned and looked at me. "You can go first." As I walked out the main door, I could still hear Jocelyn's arrogant voice. "Do you even know who he is? Let us out right now." The officer laughed in exasperation. "Who is he? He's just a creep pretending to be a rich kid. That's all he is. You have no idea how many women he's conned out of their money and dignity." "Wake up," Jocelyn shrieked. "That's impossible. You're lying to me. Captain, get your family to pull some strings and get us out of here. I can't go to jail. If this gets out today, my life will be ruined." The officer sneered. "So now you're worried your life is ruined. What about when you were hanging out with these HIV-positive people? Didn't you think about your future then?" The word AIDS hit Jocelyn like a ton of bricks, leaving her completely stunned. She instinctively protested, "That's impossible," but seeing Baron across from her, head bowed in silence, her mind completely shattered. "Baron, I'll kill you." She pounced on Baron, raining down punches and kicks. I couldn't be bothered to watch the show any longer and turned to leave the police station. Although the live stream had been taken down, recordings and screenshots were everywhere online. The identities of everyone involved in the naked bike ride were exposed. Some resourceful netizens managed to restore Jocelyn's account and uncovered that she was the one who spread rumors about me back then. Baron's history with AIDS was also fully exposed, and countless girls he had deceived banded together to take him to court, the school directly expelled Baron, Jocelyn, and a few other students who had tarnished the school's reputation. Even if they were released from the police station, they had already been completely socially dead. The naked bike ride incident caused quite a stir at school, but as time passed, people gradually forgot about it and moved on to the next big thing. I raised an eyebrow and gave a genuine smile. Well, in the end, you always reap what you sow, the end. Story 2, while I was away on a week-long business trip, my grandmother transferred the $180,000 school district property to my cousin for just $90,000. She even had the nerve to offer to safeguard the proceeds from the sale for me. I lost the court case, ended up being treated like the family's black sheep. In a daze, I got hit crossing the street. When I opened my eyes, I'd traveled back to 3 days before my business trip. Just as Grandma was demanding my ID card, could she possibly succeed this time around? 1. Juno? What's taking so long? Hurry up and give me your ID card. I looked up and met my grandmother's wide-eyed glare, her hand reaching out toward me. Grandma needs a copy of your ID for her senior subsidy application. Why are you hiding it like some precious treasure? Do you think I'm a thief? Mom came over with a bowl of porridge. Bang, she slammed it down in front of me, splattering congee all over the table, staring at the spilled porridge. My mind went numb with a buzzing sound. This scene was exactly like my previous life. Sis, you're not actually treating the apartment Grandma gave you as your personal property, are you? My cousin sauntered out of the room with a cigarette dangling from his mouth. Grandma just needs a photocopy. We're family. Why are you acting like we're thieves? In my past life, it was on this very day that I fell for the we're family line and handed over my ID without a second thought. And what happened? When I returned from my business trip a week later, the house was gone, and I became the family's black sheep. Grandma, I don't have the ID card with me. I suppressed my nervousness and stood my ground. The company collected it yesterday to issue a new access card. It won't be returned until next Wednesday. Grandma's face instantly darkened as she reached for my pocket. Who do you think you're fooling? Don't you need your ID for business trips? Hand it over. I'll return it right after. I quickly leaned back, the chair legs scraping against the floor with a grating sound. It's really not on me. The company collected them yesterday. Our whole department turned theirs in. Mom came over and grabbed my arm. Juno, stop being so stubborn. What's the harm in letting your grandmother use it? We're family. Do you really think she'd do anything to hurt you? I shook off her hand forcefully and stared straight at Grandma. If you need a copy, I can ask administration at work tomorrow, but I really don't have one right now. Grandma stared at me for a few seconds, then reached out and patted my hand. All right, just make sure you remember to ask. Don't forget. I nodded, picked up a steamed bun and took a bite. There was no sweetness in my mouth, but my mind was crystal clear. They were testing me. In this lifetime, there's no way I'm letting them take Grandma's house from me. I need to grab Grandma's will and property deed right away, then take the afternoon off to get the property preservation notarized. Can't give them another chance. After wolfing down the steamed buns, I turned toward my room, deliberately staggering and bracing myself against the wall with unsteady steps. What's wrong with you? Mom immediately followed and reached out to steady me. I dodged her hand, my voice trembling. I don't know. I suddenly feel dizzy and nauseous. Grandma leaned in, her eyes scanning my face. How about having your mom take you to the hospital? I quickly waved my hand. No need. I have a business trip early Monday morning, so I need to stop by the office to grab some documents and also ask my boss for time off. I'll go to the hospital in the afternoon to avoid making 2 separate trips. It might be low blood sugar. After saying that, I picked up the bowl of congee on the table and took a couple more sips. Grandma breathed a sigh of relief. All right then, drive carefully. Go check it out as soon as you get the documents. At that moment, Grandma's tone slipped back into her usual feigned concern. I nodded and pushed open the bedroom door. Before locking the door, I made sure to remind my mom, I'm going to rest for 10 minutes. Can you keep an eye on the time for me? With that, I turned and rushed to the wardrobe, pulled open the door, found the camphor chest, and took out the key to unlock it. I retrieved the will and property deed from the bottom of the chest, stuffed them into the inner pocket of my backpack, and pulled the zipper shut with such force that my knuckles strained. A moment later, Mom's voice came from outside the door. Juno, are you ready? Hurry up or we'll be late. Coming, I called back, slinging my backpack over my shoulder. As I opened the door, I pressed a hand to my forehead, feigning lingering fatigue. Do you need some money? Mom pressed. No, I'm good. I changed my shoes and headed out. I'm heading out now. I'll be back this afternoon after my doctor's appointment. I closed the door and ran downstairs to hail a taxi to avoid my family calling the office and blowing my cover. I decided to stop by the company first. At the office, I requested time off, stuffed some routine documents into my bag, and immediately hailed another cab to the notary public. In the taxi, I clutched my backpack tightly against my chest, terrified that something might happen to the documents inside. At the entrance of the notary office, I first made sure there were no familiar faces around before hurrying inside. My hands were still trembling as I took a queue number. In my past life, it was precisely because I hadn't done the preservation that they managed to exploit the loophole. "Hello, I'd like to apply for a property preservation notarization." When my number was called, I handed over my grandmother's will, the property deed, and my ID card. As the clerk was reviewing the documents, I asked, "For the notarization process involving this property, do I need to be present in person to sign the documents?" "Yes, during the preservation period. Any changes require both facial recognition and your personal signature. No one can sign on your behalf." When the notary verified the information and asked me to sign, I wrote each stroke with extra care. Only after signing and receiving the notarized document did I feel a bit more settled inside, too. By the time I left the notary office, it was almost 5 o'clock. I pulled out my phone and first called the electronics market I frequent. "What time do you close?" 5:30. "You've got half an hour. So you'd better hurry if you're coming over." When I got to the electronics mall, many shops were already rolling down their shutters. I headed straight for the surveillance equipment counter. "What are you looking for?" The boss looked up and asked. "It needs to be discreet, with recording capability, ideally something that blends in like a household item, nothing that draws attention." I lowered my voice and said, "Check this out. It sticks in corners, has high resolution, and the audio pickup is crisp." The boss picked up a miniature camera, and this one is a voice recorder disguised as a charger. "It looks just like the chargers we use at home, and it actually works too. No one would ever suspect a thing." I picked up the voice recorder and examined it. It was almost identical to the one in my room. I selected a few more miniature cameras, paid for everything, and hurried home. On my way back, I stopped by the pharmacy to pick up some cold medicine. When I got home, Grandma and Mom were watching TV on the sofa, while my cousin was playing video games in his room, and it was incredibly loud. "Juno, you're back. What did the doctor say?" Grandma looked up and asked, but her eyes kept darting toward my backpack. "It's nothing, just a slight cold, according to the doctor." As I spoke, I deliberately placed the cold medicine on the table. Noticing Grandma's eyes darting toward my bag, I pulled out the voice recorder and waved it in front of her. "I passed by the electronics mall this afternoon and bought a new charger. The old one's connection was getting spotty, not ideal for business trips." My cousin suddenly burst out of his room. "Hey sis, can I borrow your new charger? My phone's about to die." I quickly grabbed the charger and held it tight. "Haven't even opened it yet. I'll unbox it tomorrow and give it to you then. I'm exhausted today and just want to rest a bit." My cousin pouted, muttered "cheapskate," and turned back to his room. I went back to my room and closed the door, stuffed the camera and remaining voice recorder into the camphorwood chest and locked it, then pushed the chest back into the deepest corner of the wardrobe. At dinner, just as I picked up my bowl, Grandma placed a spare rib into it. "Juno, eat more. You must be exhausted after working all day and going to the hospital." My hand holding the chopsticks stilled for a moment. I didn't respond, just lowered my head and took a mouthful of rice. "Can I talk to you about something?" Grandma sighed, her eyes darting toward our cousin. "Your brother's girlfriend is coming over tomorrow. The girl only wants one thing, a proper home to start their marriage. It'll give her peace of mind. Why don't you show her the property deed?" "All right." My cousin immediately looked up, his eyes lighting up for a moment before he quickly lowered his head and shoveled rice into his mouth, pretending not to have heard. Dad set down his wineglass and chimed in, "That's right, Juno, just show them the property deed. It's nothing serious. Your grandmother just wants to set the child's mind at ease." I lifted my head and looked at Grandma, remembering how she had said the exact same thing in my past life, only to turn around and transfer the house to my cousin. "Grandma, I know you have my brother's best interests at heart." I softened my voice, feigning understanding. "I've stored the property deed in Grandma's camphorwood chest. It's filled with her cherished heirlooms. I never dare touch them carelessly for fear of damaging anything." Grandma quickly chimed in, "Just let me take a quick look. I'll put it right back after. I promise I won't touch anything else." I rubbed my temples, feigning exhaustion. "I've been terribly dizzy all day, and my head is still in a fog. I'll look for it after I've had some dinner." Grandma hesitated for a moment, seeing my softened attitude and that I hadn't outright refused. She didn't press me further. "All right then, eat up while it's hot. Have some more. You need the nourishment." I nodded and kept eating with my head down, but the spare ribs in my bowl suddenly seemed tasteless. 3. As soon as dinner was over, Mom pushed her bowl right in front of me. Juno, go wash the dishes now. I'm meeting your Aunt Sandra for square dancing, so I'm heading out. Without a word, I picked up my bowl and chopsticks and headed to the kitchen, hearing the sound of Grandma changing her shoes behind me. I'm going downstairs for a stroll too, to chat with my old girlfriends for a bit. Dad grabbed the chess set from the sofa. I'm going to Stanley's place for a chess game. I'll be back later. My cousin slammed his bowl on the table and bolted toward his room. I'm going to my room to game. Don't bother me unless it's important. In the blink of an eye, I was the only one left in the living room. The kitchen faucet was running steadily as I washed dishes. My ears perked up to catch any sound from outside. Once I was sure they were gone, I sped up, quickly rinsed the dishes, dried my hands, and hurried to my room. I pulled the hidden camera and voice recorder from the camphorwood chest, rushed to the living room, and stuck the camera in a corner inside the TV console. I adjusted the angle to make sure it covered both the sofa and the doorway. Next, I grabbed a chair, stood on it, and tucked another camera into a gap in the dining room light fixture. Then, I tiptoed into Grandma's room, plugged the voice recorder into a rarely used socket, and stuck another camera inside the curtain valance, pressing down the edges to make sure it wouldn't fall. Finally back in my room, I stuck the camera inside the curtain valance and plugged the other voice recorder into the desk outlet. The voice recorder looked just like the chargers we already had at home. You couldn't tell the difference unless you looked closely. After setting everything up, I pulled out my phone and connected to each device one by one. Seeing the clear feed on the screen, some of the tension finally eased. I tucked the app icon deep into a phone folder, then went back to the kitchen to re-scrub the dishes that hadn't been cleaned properly. After washing the dishes, I carried my grandmother's camphorwood chest to the living room and set it down on the coffee table with a deliberate thud. My cousin peeked up from his room. "What are you doing with that old crate, sis?" Ignoring him, I opened the chest and started rummaging through it while calling out, "Grandma, you're back. I was looking for the property deed." Hearing the voice, Grandma hurried over as soon as she stepped inside. "Did you find it?" I pulled the property deed out of the box and waved it in my hand. "Here it is, take a look." Grandma's eyes instantly lit up as she leaned in to stare at the property deed in my hand, her lips curling into an involuntary smile. I deliberately flipped the property deed open for a glance, then closed it and placed it back in the box. "It's too late now. I'll put it away first and show it to my cousin's girlfriend tomorrow when she comes. I promise it'll set her mind at ease." Grandma nodded eagerly. "Yes, of course, don't forget." "Tomorrow, I won't forget." I closed the camphorwood chest and carried it to my room. "I'll have everything ready first thing tomorrow. Don't you worry." When I reached the door, I glanced back and saw Grandma still standing by the coffee table, staring in the direction of my room. I sneered inwardly, but kept a straight face as I gently closed the door for Juno. "Open the door. How long does it take to grab a property deed?" 10 minutes. Grandma's fists hammered thump, thump against the door, making the whole panel rattle. I quickly stuffed the property deed into my pocket and yanked the door open to find Grandma standing there with her hands on her hips. "Chloe's been waiting for 10 minutes already." As she spoke, Grandma reached up to grab my arm. "Come to the living room with me, quick." I followed her to the living room, where Chloe was sitting on the sofa. My cousin was next to her, looking completely awkward and not knowing what to do with his hands. "Sis, you're here." My cousin immediately stood up, and Chloe rose as well, her gaze settling on me. Without a word, I pulled the property deed from my pocket and handed it over. "Take a look." Chloe took the deed, paused for a few seconds when she reached the ownership page, then looked up at me. "Sis, this has your name on it. From now on." "Oh, the name doesn't matter." Grandma suddenly squeezed in and cut Chloe off. "We're all family here, Juno. Aren't you going on a business trip? I see you haven't packed yet. Maybe you should get to it." As she spoke, Grandma took the property deed from Chloe's hands and tried to slip it into her own pocket. I stared at the property deed in Grandma's hand. "Grandma, since you're done looking, I'll put it back in the camphorwood chest for now." Grandma paused for a moment, then reluctantly handed the property deed back to me while muttering under her breath, "Just leave it with me. It's not like I'm going to lose it." I didn't respond, just tucked the property deed back into my pocket. "I'm heading out to get some things for my business trip anyway. I'll pick up some fruit for you all on my way back." Grandma's eyes lit up, and she immediately waved her hands in protest. "Go on then, get 2 boxes of strawberries. Chloe has such a sweet tooth." I acknowledged her and went to my room to grab my backpack, heading for the door. The moment it clicked shut, I immediately pulled out my phone. Even though the camera automatically saves everything to the cloud, recording the screen for an extra backup felt safer. I opened the surveillance app, and The living room feed popped up instantly. Grandma moved closer to Chloe and took her hand. "Don't worry, Chloe. I'll take Tyler to handle the transfer next week. We'll put both your names on it. And I've already cleared it with Juno. She's totally fine with the arrangement." My cousin nodded in agreement. "That's right, Chloe. Grandma has everything sorted out. This won't delay our wedding at all." Through the screen, I quietly watched their performance, then saved the screen recording to my private album. They'll have to answer for these words sooner or later. "Juno, did you die at the supermarket? Why aren't you back yet?" Grandma's yelling came through the phone and my hand trembled as I clutched the strawberry box I'd just picked out. "Grandma, I'm on my way back. What's up?" "Chloe wants to see the old house. Get the keys up here now." Grandma's voice was sharp with irritation. I tossed the strawberries back on the shelf and hurried to respond. "Grandma, I do have the keys, but it's been ages since I last went there. The place is probably covered in dust by now." "What's a little dust? Tell your mother to go clean it this afternoon." Grandma's voice rose sharply. I took a deep breath, reminding myself it wasn't the right time to burn bridges. "Grandma, why don't I go over first? I'll clean the living room and bedrooms, organize Grandma's old belongings neatly. Once everything's in order, you can bring Chloe over to see the place. It'll look more presentable and show we value her." There was a 2-second silence on the other end of the line, then Grandma's voice softened slightly. "All right, but you must finish before lunch, and bring the keys back immediately after." I hung up, hailed a taxi, and rushed toward the old house. 5. When I reached the old house, I pulled the video doorbell and 2 cameras out of my backpack. First, I mounted the video doorbell in the corner outside the door, connected it to my phone's network, and tested it to make sure the picture was clear. Before I felt at ease, then I opened the door and, without stopping to look at my grandmother's old belongings, stuck another camera behind the TV stand in the living room, before heading into the bedroom to tuck the other camera into the curtain valance. After confirming all 3 devices were working properly, I finally found a rag to wipe down the coffee table and dresser, straightened my grandmother's old photo frame, locked up, and hurried back. I need to get back before noon so they don't get suspicious. Just as I reached the front door, I could hear Grandma making a fuss in the living room. "What took you so long?" Chloe couldn't wait any longer and already left. I pushed the door open and handed over the keys. The traffic was a bit heavy, but I've got the place all tidied up. Grandma snatched the keys from my hand. "As long as it's clean, don't want the young lady finding any faults." I stood in the entryway changing my shoes, deliberately raising my voice. "By the way, Grandma, when I went to the old house today, I heard from the neighbors that the whole area is going to be demolished. They say one old house can be exchanged for 2 new apartments." Grandma leaned in closer all of a sudden. "Demolition? Really? Who said that?" "It's all the elderly folks in the neighborhood talking about it. They even said the community office has already been around registering house numbers." I put on my shoes and added casually, "I heard the heir has to sign in person, with facial recognition. No one else can do it for them." My cousin rushed out of the room. "Sis, does that mean the demolition compensation has to be collected in person too?" "Probably." I was in such a rush to return the keys that I didn't ask for details. After just a couple steps, I turned back to the entryway and started putting my shoes on. "Oh, I meant to buy some milk when I went out this morning, but I got caught up cleaning the old house and completely forgot. I'll make another trip." Grandma waved her hand. "Hurry back, dinner's almost ready." I acknowledged and stepped out, pulling out my phone to open the surveillance recording. Leaning against the hallway wall, I watched on the screen as my grandmother held the keys and spoke to my cousin. "We need to get the house under your name immediately, otherwise, your sister will get all the compensation money and the new property when this place gets demolished, and we'll end up with nothing." My cousin ran his fingers through his hair in frustration. "Sis is guarding the property deed like a hawk, and it requires personal signature. What else can we do? Keep your hair on, I'll figure something out." Grandma's fingers drummed against the tea table, quickening with each passing second. "I just thought of someone. I'll call her this afternoon to work out the details. We have to get this done while your sister's away on business next week. There's no way we're letting some outsider snatch both apartments from us." I stared at the screen, saved the recording, and only put away my phone to head to the convenience store after they finished discussing. The more desperate they get, the more they slip up. They're not getting their hands on this property. 6. "Juno, get out here now." I pushed the door open and saw a stranger sitting on the sofa. Seeing that face with some resemblance to mine, I had a pretty good idea who this was. "This is Aunt Sandra from our hometown. Go buy some groceries now. She'll be staying with us for a couple of days." "Hello, Aunt Sandra." I greeted her with faint politeness. How time flies. Juno's all grown up now." The woman nodded with a smile, though her expression seemed strained. Grandma suddenly gave me a shove. "Hurry up and get moving. Why must you dawdle over every little task?" I knew she was trying to get rid of me. "All right, I'll go right away." As I turned toward the entryway, I discreetly opened my phone's camera and switched to full screen mode while changing my shoes. I deliberately turned to face the woman. Aunt Sandra, since it's your first time visiting, do you have any dietary restrictions I should know about? I'll keep that in mind when I go grocery shopping. Just as the woman turned her head to speak, I quickly pressed the shutter button. No, that's too much trouble. The woman waved her hand in protest while Grandma chimed in, urging her to accept. Stop dawdling, make it quick. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, trying to act natural. Got it. As I pulled the door open, I quickly checked the photo on my phone. The face was captured perfectly. And I instantly felt reassured. I left the neighborhood and, instead of going to the supermarket, hailed a taxi. Take me to the property transaction center. Once we arrived, I took a deep breath and walked up to the service counter. Hello, I'm here to ask about something for a friend. Go ahead. The staff member looked up at me. My friend owns a property and has been worried about someone fraudulently transferring the title. I lowered my voice. If someone forged her signature to process the transfer, could they succeed? Absolutely impossible. Nowadays, property transfers require the owner's physical presence. They verify both ID documents and facial recognition. Miss one step and it's a no-go. I press further. What if we've done a property preservation notarization? Then you have even less to worry about. For properties under preservation, any changes require the owner to appear in person with the notarized documents. The system automatically locks such properties. No one else can process modifications. The staff's words put me at ease. I asked about the specific steps for facial recognition and confirmed that each step required personal operation before thanking them and leaving. After leaving the transaction center, I found a public telephone. I dialed the transaction center's number and deliberately put on a fake voice. Hello, I'd like to report something. Go ahead, please. I heard someone is planning to forge a signature to transfer the property at address XX Road. The homeowner is Juno. I provided the exact address, and it seems they've even found someone who resembles the homeowner to impersonate them. Please be extra careful when verifying identities so you don't get scammed. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Who are you? Do you have any proof? I heard it from a neighbor. I just wanted to warn the homeowner so they don't get taken advantage of. I was deliberately vague. The address and name are definitely correct. Just keep an eye on it. Understood. We'll make a note of it and we'll pay special attention to verifying this property's information during the transfer process. Thank you for the heads up. Hanging up the phone, I felt a bit more at ease. With the notarized preservation and the early warning, everything should be fine now. 7 on Monday morning, as soon as I got off the plane, I pulled out my phone and opened the monitoring app. Seeing the old house quiet on the screen, my anxious heart eased a little, but I still set a half-hour alarm. I had to keep an eye on their movements. By the time the meeting ended, the alarm had already vibrated 3 times, so I quickly grabbed my phone to check the surveillance video. Just then I saw Grandma wheeling Aunt Sandra through the door, with my cousin trailing behind carrying a document folder. Don't be nervous later, just say what I taught you. Grandma guided Aunt Sandra to sit on the sofa and pulled out a stack of papers from the document folder. I tried zooming in with my lens and immediately recognized the property deed on top was fake. The real one was still in my suitcase. My cousin spread out the stack of documents one by one, explaining the contents to Aunt Sandra. Aunt Sandra kept nervously twisting the hem of her clothes. It was clear she was on edge. I thought to myself, with behavior like that, trying to pull off a fraudulent property transfer, anyone with common sense could tell something was off. After finishing up some work, I checked the surveillance feed again. The old house was empty, and the curtains had been drawn shut tight. I figured they must have gone to the property registration office, so I put on my headphones, slipped the phone into my pocket, and pulled it out every 10 minutes to check, afraid I might miss the moment they returned. Bang! A sudden sound came through my headphones, and I quickly opened the app on the screen. Grandma stormed in, nearly tripping Aunt Sandra. My cousin came in last, through down the document folder, and the fake property deed fell out. You can't even remember a simple address. What good are you? Grandma poked Aunt Sandra on the forehead. You couldn't even answer when they asked for the address, and you failed the facial recognition every single time. If I hadn't dragged you away, we'd still be stuck there. Slap. Aunt Sandra swatted Grandma's hand away. I told you I hadn't memorized it yet, but you all had to rush me, and besides, that ID of yours is so obviously fake. It's not my fault they saw right through it. How dare you talk back? I paid you to get this done, and you couldn't even handle such a simple task. I might as well have thrown my money to the dogs. My cousin was hopping mad on the sidelines. Enough arguing. The house still isn't transferred to my name, and Chloe keeps pushing for the wedding home. If this wedding falls through, it's all your fault. This wouldn't have happened if you weren't in such a rush for the house. Grandma pinched his arm. If you hadn't kept rushing me, would I have needed to hire someone to forge documents and find a stand-in to process the paperwork? Hearing Grandma admit it herself, I set down my phone and could finally focus on work with peace of mind. After finishing work and returning to the hotel, I pulled out my phone, activated the recording function, took a deep breath, and dialed Grandma's number. "What are you calling so late for?" Grandma's voice was clearly laced with irritation. I pretended not to notice the tone. "Grandma, I was just wondering, did Chloe go see the house today? All you ever think about is that house." "What? Are you worried I'll sell it off while you're away on a business trip?" Grandma's voice suddenly rose sharply. I scoffed inwardly. She actually had the nerve to say that. "That's exactly what you did in our previous life. Sold the house." I deliberately steered the conversation toward transferring the title. No, it's just that I was chatting with a colleague about housing today. He mentioned that property transfers are extremely strict now. They require in-person facial recognition, and even the slightest discrepancy can cause issues. It made me realize how lucky I was to have my paperwork go through smoothly before, otherwise it would have been such a hassle. The line went silent for a moment, then after a few seconds, Grandma suddenly shouted, "Why are you telling me this? Trying to show off how much you know? It's not like I have any property to transfer." "Grandma, don't be upset. I was just mentioning it in passing." I put on an injured look. "Don't give me that." Grandma cut me off, her tone sharp and impatient. "Just focus on your business trip and stay out of family matters." With that, she slammed the phone down. I stared at the blacked out screen and clicked on the recording file. Her anger, misplaced blame, and panic were all captured clearly, further confirming that she had been scheming to get my house behind my back. I opened my contacts and made a call. "Hello, Attorney Nash, this is Juno. You previously handled my grandmother's will for me, and I have a matter I'd like to consult you about." I slowed down, making every effort to speak clearly. "My grandmother and cousin tried to transfer my late grandmother's property to my cousin by forging signatures and using an imposter. They even created a fake property deed. Fortunately, their scheme fell through. I now have a complete set of evidence and would like to consult you on how to hold them accountable." The lawyer asked me to organize and send over the evidence first. After hanging up, I immediately opened the file transfer and sent everything: a clear front-facing photo of Aunt Sandra, surveillance footage of my grandmother and cousin discussing the procedures with Aunt Sandra, footage of their argument after returning, the recent call recording, and the property preservation notarization certificate. After sending the files, I followed up with another message: "Attorney Nash, I also previously went to the transaction center to file an anonymous warning. They have a record of it, which proves I took preventive measures against them in advance. Is this evidence sufficient?" About 10 minutes later, the lawyer replied, "The evidence is solid and clearly demonstrates their intent to forge documents and fraudulently transfer ownership, which constitutes infringement. I'll help you organize the materials, and once we've supplemented the details, we can proceed with the legal process. Rest assured, we will hold them legally accountable." Reading the message, I felt a huge weight lift off my shoulders. Leaning back on the hotel sofa, I let out a long sigh of relief. Finally, I could get a good night's sleep. I took a shower and finally felt some of the tension in my nerves ease up a bit. I picked up my phone and saw 5 missed calls, all from my mom. My heart sank. Was something wrong at home? 9. Just as I was about to call back, my phone rang again. "Juno, your grandmother is sick. You need to come home right away." Mom's voice was choked with sobs, breaking into fragments that left me completely numb. "Mom, I just spoke with Grandma half an hour ago." Her voice was perfectly clear. How could she suddenly fall ill? My mind was racing. Grandma looked perfectly energetic during her argument in this afternoon's surveillance footage, and she sounded fine during our call. This illness is just too conveniently timed. Who knows? She said she felt dizzy earlier, but the moment she lay down, suddenly everything started hurting. Mom's voice grew more frantic with each word, when suddenly my cousin's furious shout exploded from the other end of the line. "Juno, how dare you even ask? What did you say to Grandma on the phone just now? Are you just waiting for her to die?" His words pierced me like needles. I told myself to stay calm, taking several deep breaths. "Mom, what exactly is bothering Grandma? Does she have a fever? Is she vomiting? Have you called the community doctor?" The line went silent, and Mom's voice dropped to a faint whisper. We haven't called a doctor. Your grandmother said to wait until you're back before going to the hospital." Seriously, who avoids seeing a doctor when they're seriously ill? This is clearly an act. She must be up to something again. "Mom, I'm tied up with this business trip. The earliest I can come back is tomorrow, after I've handed over my work." I kept my temper in check, deliberately speaking slowly. "I'll Contact the community clinic right now and have a doctor come for a house call. We shouldn't let this drag on and risk making things worse. You're just making excuses to avoid us. What? Are you afraid we'll try to claim the house if you come back? My cousin shouted from the other end of the line. If you don't come back and something happens to Grandma, you'll have me to answer to, whether it's an excuse or not. We'll find out when the doctor gets here. I raised my voice to overpower his. If the doctor says it's serious, I'll take leave and come back immediately. If not, stop putting on this act. And let's be real, don't pretend you don't know exactly what you're trying to pull by scheming to take my house. With that, I slammed the phone down before they could throw another tantrum. Now that I had a solid chain of evidence, there was no way they could seize the property. 10. I immediately looked up the number for the local clinic and dialed. Mom had mentioned they made house calls when Grandma had a cold last time. Is this the community clinic? Please send a doctor to our home immediately. The address is Building 3, XX residential area in the suburbs. My grandmother suddenly collapsed in bed and can't get up. I'm away on a business trip, and my mother is so distraught she's nearly fainted from crying. I deliberately made my voice tremble to convey the urgency to the doctor. The staff member didn't waste any words and agreed right away. I quickly added one more thing. Doctor, please examine her thoroughly. My grandmother is usually in good health, but she suddenly became like this after coming home today. I'm worried there might be an underlying condition. If everything checks out fine, could you please call me back? I'm really anxious waiting here. Don't worry, I'll let you know as soon as the examination is done. Then I sent a message to my mom. Mom, the doctor will be here in half an hour. Please don't interfere. Let him conduct a proper examination. If there's really something wrong, we should take her to a major hospital immediately and not delay. After finishing all that, the more I thought about it, the more something felt off. Given the whole property situation, Grandma should have wanted to keep me away longer. Did something happen during that half hour while I was contacting the lawyer and taking a shower? I immediately logged into the cloud surveillance system and pulled up the footage from right after my call with Grandma. What I saw made my blood boil. The recording showed Grandma calling my cousin into her room right after hanging up on me. I think your sister might know something. She just called and mentioned talking to a colleague about property transfer. What should we do? Grandma, you have to help me. Without the house, my marriage to Chloe is doomed. My cousin started to panic when he heard that. Isn't your sister's property deed in the Camporwood chest? Get a screwdriver and break the lock. Tomorrow we'll have Sandra's makeup done, then take the real deed and go. Exactly, and with my sister being away, by the time she finds out and comes back to make a fuss, it'll be too late for her to do anything about it. Once the house is gone, if she still makes a scene, just kick her out. What's a girl like her going to do? 'Cause an uproar, Grandma said angrily, with such intensity you'd think I was the one who stole her house then. On my room's surveillance footage, I saw my cousin prying open the Camporwood chest my grandmother left behind and rummaging through everything inside, leaving it in complete disarray. But they never expected that I had already taken the property deed with me. Grandma, the property deed isn't in the Camporwood chest. What should we do now? My cousin's voice came through the surveillance feed. Then get her back here. I refuse to believe she can just run off with the property deed. Go have your mother call her and say I'm sick. Tell her to come back immediately. Oh, and call your great aunt, second uncle, and third aunt too. Tell them I'm sick and ask them to come over tomorrow. I refuse to believe she'd dare make a scene in front of all our relatives. So that's the plan. Grandma's faking an illness and inviting relatives over. She's trying to emotionally blackmail me into submission. I turned off the cloud recording, my eyes stinging with tears, but my heart growing colder by the second. An unknown number flashed on my screen. I answered it. Hello, you must be Juno. This is Dr. Tang. Your grandmother is fine, just slightly elevated blood pressure, probably from getting over-emotional. The doctor's tone remained flat. Her temperature, heart and lungs are all normal. She can't pinpoint any pain, just doesn't want to move from bed. If you're concerned, bring her to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Thank you, doctor. I really appreciate your help. After hanging up, I gazed at the lights outside the window and murmured to myself, well, Grandma, this is the show you wanted to put on. Let's make it even more dramatic. Then, 11 the next day, I booked the earliest high-speed train back home. On the way, I opened the family group chat and sent messages to some aunts and uncles. My grandmother suddenly fell ill, and I'm really worried about her. I'm on my way back now. If you have time, could you please go keep her company and chat with her? Just after sending the messages, the train arrived at the station, and I caught a taxi straight home. I had just entered the residential complex when I ran into Aunt Grace. And Night from downstairs, so I hurried over to them. Aunt Grace, Night, my grandmother is sick. Last night, I called a doctor for a home visit, but she wouldn't cooperate with the examination. Could you please come with me and help talk some sense into her? They immediately grew concerned and followed me home, but as soon as we reached the door, we heard Grandma's cries. She was already making a scene, just as I'd feared. I pretended to be frantic. Grandma, I'm home. Are you all right? The moment the door opened, I saw Grandma sitting on the floor, weeping as she slapped her thighs and pounded the ground with her hands. My life is so miserable. I raised a granddaughter who doesn't care if I live or die. I'm suffering here at home, and she's out there without a care in the world. I immediately crouched down to help her up, but she shoved me away. Don't touch me. You don't care about me as your grandmother at all. I worked so hard to raise you, and now that I'm old, you won't even do a small favor for me. The relatives rushed over to intervene, and my cousin chimed in. Sis, you've gone too far. Grandma's like this because of you. Grandma continued to weep and scold. Everything I do is for this family. It's for your own good. You're a girl. You'll get married sooner or later. What use do you have for a house? Just let your brother use it as a wedding home. He'll support you later on. I'm only doing this to keep our family together. I'm old now, and my only wish is to see your brother married. You won't even help me with that. Oh, I'm just a useless old woman. I straightened up, my voice tinged with hurt but clear. Grandma, how could you think I don't care about you? Last night when you called saying you felt unwell, I immediately contacted the community clinic and had a doctor come check on you. Even though the doctor said it was nothing serious, I still couldn't rest easy. This morning I didn't even bother with work. I took time off and caught the first high-speed train back. We heard from the doctor yesterday that you were reluctant to cooperate with the examination, and we were worried you might still be upset today. That's why we asked your uncles and aunt to come over. We just want you to take good care of your health. The relatives around nodded in agreement, and second aunt said, yes, Juno called me this morning, saying she's concerned you might not cooperate with the checkup and asked us to talk some sense into you. Grandma was taken aback for a moment, then went right back to making a scene. Stop pretending to be the good guy here. If you really cared about me, you'd listen to me and lend the house to your cousin. I'm only doing this for your own good, for the good of this family. She kept repeating, for my own good. Seeing the tension had built enough, I pulled out my phone from my bag and said loudly, Grandma, you keep saying it's for my good, for the family's good, and that we should lend the house to my cousin, but do you really mean lend? Grandma froze for a second, then immediately burst into tears again. If it's not borrowing, then what is it? Do you really think your brother and I would try to steal your house? Then please listen. Isn't this what you said to our cousin yesterday? I cut her off, opened the saved surveillance recording, and turned the volume all the way up. We need to get the house under your name immediately, otherwise your sister will get all the compensation money and the new property when this place gets demolished, and we'll end up with nothing. Sandra, don't worry about the details. I'll take care of all the paperwork. Once the property is successfully transferred to your name, I'll give you 20,000 yuan. Well, we're family, aren't we? It's only right that we help each other out. Don't you agree? Exactly. And with my sister being away, by the time she finds out and comes back to make a fuss, it'll be too late for her to do anything about it. Once the house is gone, if she still makes a scene, just kick her out. What's a girl like her going to do? Cousin uproar. Grandma, the property deed isn't in the Camporwood chest. What should we do now? Then get her back here. I refuse to believe she can just run off with the property deed. Go have your mother call her and say I'm sick. Tell her to come back immediately. Oh, and also call your great aunt, second uncle, and third aunt. Tell them I'm sick and ask them to come over tomorrow. I don't believe she'd dare confront me right in front of all our relatives and neighbors. The words rang out crystal clear, and the relatives fell silent instantly. Grandma's sobbing cut off abruptly. She scrambled up and made a grab for my phone. You wretched girl, where did you get this fake recording? You're just trying to send me to an early grave. I was ready for this. With my other hand, I shielded the phone and backed away. Grandma, this is from the surveillance footage. You and my cousin know better than anyone whether it's real or fake. Don't you? You keep saying you're doing this for my own good, but then you go behind my back to pry open the chest my grandmother left me, just so you can take the property deed and find someone to fraudulently transfer the ownership, and you call this borrowing. My cousin's face instantly turned pale. He stood frozen in place, not daring to speak, his head bowed so low it nearly touched his chest. 12. After the recording finished playing, I turned my phone toward our relatives and neighbors. My voice was filled with hurt, yet every word came through clearly. Listen to this, everyone. This is the grandmother who kept claiming she only had my best interests at heart. My maternal grandmother left me her old downtown property, but my paternal grandmother tried to secretly transfer it to my brother. She even hired this woman named Sandra to impersonate me during the procedures. If the transaction center hadn't been so strict with their checks, I'd probably be homeless by now. As I spoke, I started crying pitifully. When you're putting on a show, you've got to commit to the role. Still sobbing, I pulled up the photos I'd taken of Auntie Sandra to show everyone. This is the woman who came to our house just days ago, scheming with Grandma about how to sweep things under the rug. We have proof. It's all documented. I tried to keep this quiet since we're family, but then I had to leave for a business trip yesterday. Out of nowhere, Grandma insisted I come back immediately. Now I have to explain this mess to my boss. If I lose my job because of this, what am I supposed to do? I started crying even louder, drawing more neighbors from upstairs and downstairs to come see what the commotion was about. Aunt Grace, who was standing nearby, suddenly spoke up. No wonder I saw this woman entering the building with your grandmother the other day. I thought she looked a bit like you, right? I saw them too yesterday when they were heading out. Your brother was carrying a document folder, so that's what it was for. Knight chimed in agreement. The relatives began murmuring among themselves, and second aunt furrowed her brow as she spoke to Grandma. Sis, you're really in the wrong here. That house was left to Juno by her grandmother. How could you help Tyler snatch it away? And hiring an imposter, that's illegal. Third uncle nodded in agreement. Exactly, Juno's just a young woman. And that house is the only keepsake from her grandmother. How can you be so biased? Grandma's face flushed and then paled, wanting to defend herself but unable to utter a single word. She could only glare at my cousin, who buried his head even lower. Seeing all the relatives and neighbors siding with me, Grandma knew it was useless to keep making a scene. She slowly sat down, leaning on the sofa, her face ashen but not daring to throw another tantrum. I took 2 steps forward, my tone softening yet remaining firm. Grandma, I know you love your grandson and want him to have a wedding home, but you can't break the law for it. This house was left to me by my grandmother, and now everyone knows about this situation. You should just return the keys to me. If anything else happens, not only will you be embarrassed, but our whole family will lose face in the neighborhood. Great aunt immediately chimed in. Juno is right. Sister-in-law, hurry up and give the keys back to Juno. What you did was truly wrong. Don't keep making this mistake. Third uncle also advised. Give the keys to Juno. Stop entertaining these dishonest ideas from now on. Nothing is more important than our family living together peacefully. The neighbors nodded in agreement. Seeing that no one was on her side, Grandma had no choice but to pull the keys from her pocket and slam them onto the coffee table in front of me. Here, from now on, I'm done meddling in this house business. I picked up the keys and bowed to the relatives and neighbors. Thank you, Auntie, Uncle, and all the aunts and uncles. I'm sorry for making you come all this way and taking up your time. The relatives waved it off, said it was nothing, offered a few more words of comfort to Grandma, and then left. The neighbor followed them out, leaving just me, Grandma, and my cousin in the living room. I slipped the keys into my pocket, went back to my room, and started tidying up the camphorwood chest that had been rummaged through and left in disarray. Bang! I heard Grandma and my cousin head out but paid no mind. Continuing to sort through my things, it was probably time for me to move out of this house. 13. About 40 minutes later, my phone suddenly vibrated. It was an alert from the security system at the old house. I quickly opened the surveillance app and saw my grandmother and cousin on the screen. To my surprise, my mother was following behind them, carrying a toolbox. I immediately hit the screen record button, determined to see what they were up to. In the footage, my grandmother glanced back a couple of times, and seeing no one around, she started ordering my cousin around. Hurry up, pry the door open, throw out the old furniture, and let's just move into this house. Let's see what she can do about it. My cousin immediately grabbed a crowbar from the toolbox and forcefully pried the door lock. With a sharp click, the lock broke. My cousin was the first to rush in and started smashing the dressing table Grandma had left behind, cursing as he swung. This old hag's junk should have been thrown out ages ago. Mom stood nearby helping move things, tossing Grandma's old clothes onto the floor. Check if there's anything valuable. We'll just toss all this junk in the dumpster downstairs later. Watching the ransacked room on the security feed, tears welled up in my eyes, and I bit my lip so hard it hurt. I swore to myself then and there that I would hold them legally accountable. No compromises. After saving the recording, I dialed 110. My hands were still shaking with anger, but I kept my voice as calm as I could. Hello, I need to report a crime. There's an illegal break-in happening at XX Road, number XX. I have live surveillance footage as proof. I quickly provided the address and added, the intruders are actually my family members. The property is under my sole ownership, and they forced the door open without my consent. They're currently inside vandalizing my belongings. Please dispatch officers immediately. The police told me to keep my phone on and said they would Dispatch officers from the nearby station immediately. Okay, I'm currently in the XX residential area on the outskirts, about a 40-minute drive from the old house. I'm heading over right now and will keep you updated. After hanging up with the police, I immediately called the property management of the old house's neighborhood. Hello, is this property management? There are people illegally breaking into the house at XX Road, XX number, and they're smashing things inside. I've already contacted the police. Please send security to guard the entrance immediately. Don't let anyone inside leave before the police arrive. Make sure they don't get away. The property manager said they'd send security right over. I hung up and immediately rushed out the door. While on my way, I called my lawyer, Attorney Nash. My grandmother and her crew broke into the old house and destroyed the furniture my late grandmother left behind. I have it all on security footage, and I've already contacted the police. I'm now suing them for trespassing and vandalism, and I'm also holding them accountable for forging documents and using an imposter to transfer the property. My lawyer asked me to send over the additional evidence. I quickly opened the file transfer, sent over the surveillance footage and doorbell camera recordings all at once, while urging the driver to hurry up. Soon after, the lawyer replied, "This evidence is crucial. It directly proves their illegal actions. I'm organizing the case details now, and I can provide legal input when the police investigate." Later, I replied immediately, "Thank you, Attorney Nash. What other documents should I prepare, like the property deed or my grandmother's will? Please send scanned copies of the property deed and will as well. I'll compile them into an evidence list for the legal proceedings." I asked again, "Can I claim compensation for the dressing table they smashed? It was my grandmother's heirloom and means a great deal to me." "Yes. Intentional property damage carries liability for compensation. You can gather the purchase receipt or an appraisal report for the dressing table to support your claim later." After hanging up, I watched the streets rushing by outside the window and let out a heavy sigh, finally releasing the bonds of familial attachment. Since there's no affection left, let the law settle this. 14. When I arrived at the old house, seeing the police car parked there made half the weight lift from my chest. The officers had indeed beaten me here. I rushed up the stairs and heard my grandmother's cries and tantrums coming from inside the room. "How dare you stop me? This is my own granddaughter's house. I'll take whatever I want." Pushing the door open, I saw the police blocking my cousin who was trying to move things out, my mother standing frozen nearby, and my grandmother throwing a fit on the floor. "If you don't let me take these things today, I'll die right here," the security guard nearby whispered to the police officer. When we arrived, they were smashing things and stuffing items into boxes. We couldn't stop them no matter how hard we tried. The police officer crouched down to reason with her. "Ma'am, regardless of who owns this property, breaking in and destroying things is illegal. Please get up first, and let's talk this through calmly." Grandma wouldn't listen at all, and instead cried even louder. "What law? What belongs to my granddaughter belongs to our family. If you keep stopping me, I'll report you." I quickly stepped forward, holding up the USB drive containing the evidence in the document folder. "Officer, I'm the owner of this property. Here's my proof of ownership, and here's the surveillance footage of them breaking in and destroying things." Grandma looked up and saw me, immediately stopping her crying and pointing at me to curse. "You ungrateful wretch. How dare you call the police on your own grandmother? All these years I've raised you for nothing." I ignored her and started pulling out the contents of the document folder one by one to show the police. "This is my grandmother's will, clearly stating the house belongs to me. Here's the surveillance footage and screenshots showing them smashing the dresser earlier, and this is the video doorbell recording that captured the entire process of them prying the door open." The officer examined the will against the screenshots, then plugged the USB drive I handed him into his portable device to pull up the footage of the door being smashed. "Ma'am, as you can see, the surveillance clearly shows you prying the door open and destroying property. This constitutes illegal trespassing and intentional vandalism." Grandma leaned in to glance at the screen, her face instantly paling. All her earlier bravado vanished, though she still refused to back down. I was just helping her tidy up the place and accidentally broke some things. Since when does tidying up require breaking down doors or smashing dressers with hammers? The officer's tone turned stern. "Come with us to the station. We need your official statement to clarify the situation." My cousin wanted to explain things on our grandmother's behalf. "Officer, we just made a terrible mistake in judgment. Ignorance is no excuse for breaking the law." The officer cut him off, signaling to his colleague to escort the three away. Granny's defiance completely deflated then, leaning on the officer for support as she stood. She kept muttering under her breath, watching their retreating figures, then Glancing at the trashed room, I felt a chill settle deep in my chest. 15. I went with the police to the station and handed over all the evidence piece by piece to the officers: surveillance footage, phone recordings, and the notarized certificate for the property preservation. Just yesterday, they tried to transfer the property using an impersonator. There should be surveillance footage at the transaction center. And now they're trying to break in. I had no choice but to call the police. After verifying the evidence, the police had me sign the statement. The moment I finished signing, hurried footsteps echoed from outside, and my dad burst into the room. His eyes welled up when he saw his grandmother, cousin, and mother cornered by the police. After a quick glance around the room, he suddenly grabbed the broom from the corner and swung it at me. "You ungrateful brat, how could you turn in your own family? I'll beat you to death." The officer reacted swiftly, grabbing the broom and pulling him away. "Comrade, calm down. This is a police station. You can't hit people here." Dad, unable to break free, started yelling at me. "We're family. Can't we talk this through? Did you have to bring this to the police? Drop the charges. Withdraw the case now." Seeing the rage contorting his face sent a chill through me. "Family? Dad, when have you ever treated me like family?" Grandma snatched my ID card and forged signatures. My cousin helped find an imposter. Mom handed over tools to pry open doors and smash furniture, and you're all scheming to seize the property Grandma left behind. Which one of these isn't illegal? Now that you've been caught, you suddenly remember we're family. Too late. Dad stared at me, the broom clattering from his hands. He collapsed into a chair, utterly speechless. By the time I left the police station, night had fallen. I pulled up the community hotline number I'd saved in my phone, took a deep breath, and dialed. When they answered, I calmly laid out the whole story, from when my grandmother first asked for my ID, to her forging signatures to transfer the property, faking illness to lure me back, all the way to today's break-in where she smashed my other grandmother's dressing table. I left nothing out. I'm not doing this for attention. I just want people to see how far son preference can push someone, and to make them face the consequences for breaking the law. The journalist listened intently before asking seriously, "Do you have any evidence you can provide, such as surveillance footage or photos?" "We'll redact any private information. Yes, I can send you some of the surveillance footage. The property center should have records too, and the neighbors can also testify." I quickly replied. The journalist said, "This is a classic infringement case arising from a family dispute, and it's definitely newsworthy. We'll visit the property registration office and interview the neighbors tomorrow." After hanging up, I sent over the surveillance footage and photos with my family members' faces blurred out. Then I called our neighbor, Auntie Grace, and asked if she'd be willing to do an interview. 16. The next afternoon, the journalist contacted me to say the story was finished and sent me a preview. It laid out the whole sequence of events in detail, without exaggeration or omission. After the report was published, I refreshed the page and the comments section quickly filled up. "Son preference is terrifying. This family clearly doesn't see girls as real family members. OMG, this level of son preference is insane. They're not family, they're total bloodsuckers. You go, girl, standing up for your rights is everything. Zero tolerance for illegal behavior. I stand with the OP. You're absolutely right to defend your legal rights. Those who break the law must face the consequences." Seeing the flood of supportive comments, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. At least, justice still lives in people's hearts. On the day of the court hearing, I walked into the courtroom with my lawyer, Nash, holding a neatly organized list of evidence. My lawyer had already walked me through the case details beforehand. Grandma, my cousin, and Sandra are facing charges of document forgery and attempted fraud. Even though the property transfer didn't go through, their malicious intent is clear. Additionally, Grandma, my cousin, and your mother are accused of illegal trespassing and intentional property damage. The evidence against them is solid. When the trial began and the judge started questioning, Grandma still tried to talk her way out of it. "We're all family here. How could this be a crime? I just wanted my grandson to have a home." The lawyer immediately countered by citing the relevant legal statutes. Under the criminal law, document forgery and unlawful intrusion are both criminal offenses. Liability applies even if no actual harm resulted, and there's no such thing as family exemption. I then submitted all evidence, surveillance footage, audio recordings, and notarized wills, presenting each piece systematically. The court ultimately established the facts during the hearing and rendered the following verdict. Grandmother received a 3-month detention sentence suspended for 6 months, along with a 10,000 yen fine. My cousin was sentenced to 3 months of criminal detention and fined 10,000 yuan. Sandra was sentenced to 3 months of criminal detention and fined 5,000 yuan. My grandmother, cousin, and mother were ordered to compensate me 20,000 yuan for economic losses and received a formal warning. They accepted the judgment and did not file an appeal. When the verdict was announced, Grandma collapsed in the defendant's seat, while my cousin hung his head in silence. After the ruling took effect, Grandma couldn't hold her head up in our neighborhood. Neighbors would whisper and point whenever they saw her. Mom, weighed down by guilt, stopped bringing up the house matter and became unusually polite toward me. I didn't dwell on the past, but our former closeness was gone for good. Because of the scandal, my cousin's engagement was called off. After his release, he had no choice but to seek work out of town and never contacted me again. I later renovated the old house my grandmother left behind. I hung her photo in the most prominent spot in the living room. The day I moved into the old house, the sunlight was beautiful. Sitting in the wicker chair on the balcony, looking at my grandmother's photo, I felt a deep sense of peace. I finally understood that so-called boundaries aren't for compromise, but for protection. Just as my grandmother used to say, if it's yours, don't give it up. My job is stable, my life is peaceful, and I'm finally living the life I've always wanted. Story 2. While gathering herbs in the mountains, I saved a man on the brink of death. Days later, a phoenix delivered a marriage proposal. He was the mountain god of Phoenix Perch. My elder sister snatched the betrothal letter to become the god's bride, forcing her own fiancé upon me. Then divine retribution struck, scorching the earth into a living hell. My husband had dug a cellar in advance and took shelter there with me. The mountain god exhausted his divine power and could no longer protect my elder sister. With her last ounce of magic, she killed me before perishing under the scorching sun. In this new life, my sister tossed the mountain god's marriage contract at my feet and gleefully went to marry her betrothed. This man was far more terrifying than extreme heat. With a resounding cry, the phoenix descended in a golden glow, landing in the backyard. As if waking from another lifetime, I realized I had been reborn. Hearing the commotion, I rushed outside to see my elder sister already retrieving the betrothal letter from the phoenix's beak. With a flap of its golden wings, the phoenix soared into the horizon and vanished. My sister turned, a sly glint flashing in her eyes as she flung the ornate betrothal letter at my feet. Shameless hussy, that savage you saved is here to take you into the mountains. She pushed past me, muttering curses under her breath. What worthless mountain god can't even stand up to heaven's wrath like a mortal man can? I laughed. I knew then she'd been reborn too. In our past life, she'd stolen my marriage contract, demanding to wed the mountain god, fantasizing about becoming his divine consort worshipped by the masses. As the legitimate daughter, Zara had treated me like her personal maid since childhood. Constantly humiliating me, she would snatch away anything I owned on a whim, no matter how trivial it seemed to her. My dying mother had painstakingly embroidered a pair of shoes for me with her last breath, my most treasured possession, yet Zara seized them, callously cut them to shreds, and tossed them into the water. Father turned a blind eye, while the first wife encouraged her cruelty. So when she effortlessly stole my betrothal to the mountain god, I was knocked unconscious and delivered in a wedding sedan to Benedict's household. Benedict was originally my elder sister's fiancé, but after our family fell into decline, she always looked down on him. When a better match came along, she couldn't wait to palm him off on me. The day after Benedict and I married, he was conscripted into the army. Later on the battlefield, he saved a general's life and was promoted to centurion. Zara retreated into the mountains and became a mountain goddess, living the celestial life she'd always imagined, but divine retribution came swiftly. The sun never set again, scorching the earth relentlessly. Under the blazing heat, people dropped dead one after another until corpses littered the land. I sensed something amiss early on, and Benedict immediately ordered his soldiers to dig a cellar upon hearing my warning. We took refuge in the cellar under the scorching heat and narrowly escaped disaster, but Zara, relying on the mountain god's protection, completely ignored my warnings from the start and even came to mock me. Only rats enjoy burrowing underground. The mountain deity's spiritual power waned until exhausted, stripped of divinity yet cursed with immortality, he became a mortal doomed to eternal suffering. My father and stepmother perished under the scorching sun while delivering supplies to Phoenix Mountain. Zara stole the deity's last remnant of power, lured me from the cellar, and murdered me. In her final moments, her withered face twisted with hatred as sunken eyes burned into me with venomous intensity. If I can't live, then you deserve to die too. Yet her face before me was so exquisitely beautiful, just as her stepmother was persuading her at that moment. With celestial beauty like yours, only an immortal would be worthy, I scoffed. Divine beauty, that face of hers was cultivated with countless herbs I'd gathered. Zara prided herself on her looks, constantly mocking my ugliness and claiming I was unworthy to be her sister. She even conspired with our stepmother to force me into concocting her precious Jade Beauty Elixir, the experimental potion she made me test, left an ugly red blotch across my forehead. That's why Benedict despised me in our past life, sneaking off to brothels on our wedding night. After his promotion to Centurion, he'd beat me at the slightest provocation. I played along with our stepmother's whims, because I knew, given a second chance, Zara would never choose the mountain god. Through Zara's insistence, she got her wish to marry into Benedict's family. Her lavish wedding procession stretched all around Emberton, the dowry carts forming an endless parade. The townsfolk still gossip about the extravagant wedding thrown by Emberton's largest apothecary for his daughter. Yet in my past life, I entered marriage without a single dowry. My mother-in-law mocked me mercilessly the moment I crossed their threshold. As my elder sister's bridal procession faded into the distance, the phoenix sent by the mountain deity descended into our courtyard to claim me. The divine bird remained invisible to outsiders to avoid stirring trouble, so none knew another bride departed that day. The phoenix carried me skyward, piercing through clouds as the wind howled past my ears, yet not a trace of winter's bite could be felt. So this is the exhilarating freedom of flight, I thought. If given another life, mine would unfold just like this. The phoenix alighted in a mountain courtyard, folding its wings and bowing to let me dismount. As I rose, a man clad in white swept down and caught me by the waist, landing us both gently. This was to be my husband for life, Mufang, the mountain deity. His striking handsomeness carried a faint smile, like moonlight melting into spring waters, a far cry from the broken man I'd found while herb gathering. Back then he lay naked, his body scorched by heavenly fire. Seeing him at death's door, I applied medicinal herbs despite propriety. But when I returned with foliage for covering, he'd vanished. Evening breeze released his arm from around my waist, his voice tinged with remorse. The mountain accommodations are humble. I fear I've been a poor host. I looked up at him with smiling eyes. It's wonderful. I love it here. In her past life, Zara had thrown such tantrums about these conditions that she stormed back to her parents' home. By chance, I encountered her during my own homecoming visit, clinging to her mother. She wailed, "What kind of godforsaken place is this? It's as shabby as the countryside. Must be some impoverished deity." Eventually, her mother persuaded her to reconsider by reminding her of the mountain goddess's splendor, coaxing her to return. Little did she know such surroundings were ideal for cultivation. For mortals like us, prolonged exposure could prolong life and enhance beauty. True enough, within days, the red patches on my face had completely vanished. After settling in, I told Twilight Breeze directly about the divine punishment. I asked if deities could foresee the future, and he said they couldn't. Then I revealed my vision, a scorching heatwave that would sweep across the land in 6 months. Twilight Breeze, do you trust me? His gaze was resolute yet tender as he murmured, I believe. Yet the heavenly punishment was decreed by the celestial emperor to chastise mortals. No deity may intervene. In their past life, had Zara not married the mountain god, even Twilight Breeze's spiritual power couldn't have shielded her. As the mountain god, if he couldn't protect all mortals, he should at least have safeguarded Phoenix Roost Mountain's creatures. I suspect Zara selfishly monopolized his spiritual energy, leaving the entire mountain defenseless. Its inhabitants perished in that calamity. In this lifetime, I'll never be as selfish as her. If possible, I'll ensure more lives survive this heavenly punishment. With Duskwind's support, I gathered many mountain spirits. They revered me as the mountain goddess and followed my commands. I taught them complete farming techniques, blessed with magic. Crops that normally took a year to harvest now yielded in just months under their care. Within 2 months, Phoenix Mountain overflowed with abundant harvests, more than we could possibly consume. With the spirits' continuous production, we'd have enough food for lifetimes. The spirits worked even harder after seeing the bountiful results, recognizing this as a legacy for generations. Their reverence for Duskwind and me grew deeper. One day, Twilight Breeze suddenly told me he could feel his spiritual power growing stronger. I took a deep breath. It wasn't just him, the entire Phoenix Mountain's spiritual energy had thickened. Then I understood, as the mountain deity, his roots were naturally tied to this land. So in her past life, Zara essentially caused her own demise. Had she not drained Twilight Breeze of all his spiritual power, Phoenix Mountain wouldn't have lost its protection. The withering of life and dissipation of spiritual energy gradually weakened his power. I smiled faintly. My so-called sister was truly both foolish and wicked. Food alone wouldn't be enough. When divine punishment strikes, the most terrifying aspects are the scorching heat and water scarcity. In my past life, the spot Benedict and I chose for the cellar happened to sit above an underground river. The cool water not only provided a steady supply but also carried away the stifling heat, allowing us to live comfortably in that shelter. Honestly, no ordinary cellar could possibly withstand scorching heat waves like those. Little did Zara know, the cellar's Location was actually my choice. In my past life, my mother-in-law forced me into endless toil from the moment I married into their family. With the Benedict's fortunes dwindling and Benedict himself enlisted, survival grew desperate. I gathered medicinal herbs in the mountains to supplement our income, cultivated wildland to put food on our table. I became their sole provider. These very hardships sharpened my awareness of weather patterns, allowing me to select the perfect sheltered spot in this life. My sister thought choosing Benedict would save her from the scorching divine punishment, never realizing it was my doing that kept her alive in our past existence. Phoenix Perch is vast with no shortage of water. The mountain springs here are even refreshingly sweet. The most pressing matter now is solving this extreme heat problem, I asked Twilight Breeze. Do you immortals have any magical artifacts to lower the temperature? He pressed his hand against my cheek and asked with concern. Are you feeling hot? I wasn't actually warm, but my cheeks flushed as I pulled away. I truly couldn't comprehend how Zara in our past life could bear to drain all his spiritual energy when he was this kind too. Studying myself, I replied, not now, but I fear when divine retribution comes, Phoenix Perch Mountain will be scorched by merciless sun, leaving devastation in its wake. He pondered for a moment. The water spirit pearl from the Dragon Palace can lower temperatures, just as we were about to depart for the Dragon King's palace, Zara showed up unexpectedly. Her face turned ashen when she saw Mufang holding me by the waist. She began nervously tugging at her sleeves and fussing with her hair. I knew she was trying to hide her wounds. Seems Benedict beat her often enough. Eldest sister, this is what you wanted. In our past life, she only saw Benedict digging the cellar to protect me from the heat wave, but never witnessed the beatings I endured to beg him for that shelter. Zara's eyes instantly darkened with venomous resentment as she glared at me. Duskwind noticed her hostility and scowled, ready to retaliate when I stopped him, motioning for him to leave first. Consumed by jealousy, Zara hissed through gritted teeth. Benedict fled from the battlefield. Why wasn't he promoted to Centurion? I feigned ignorance. Sister, I truly don't understand what you mean. Since marrying into Phoenix Peak, I've had no contact with the lowlands. Why would you ask me about your husband's affairs now? Moira, drop the act. Seeing these 100 acres of fertile land today proves you must remember our past lives too. Out with it. What's the real reason? She lunged at me as if to strangle me, but I dodged her grasp. I raised an eyebrow mockingly. How very clever of you, sister. Since you've figured it out, I'll be straight with you. In our past life, he deserted too. Did you really think he could return home after just months at war? Though he got lucky, on his way back, he saved a dying general. Then why not in this lifetime? She pointed an accusing finger at me. You scheming bitch. This is your doing, isn't it? With deliberate mischief, I replied. Oh, did I forget to mention, the medicine he used to save the general was from my personal stash. In our past life, even after Benedict treated me so coldly during our wedding, I still meticulously prepared my homemade remedies before his departure. Battlefields are merciless. One can never be too careful with medical supplies, yet I never imagined he'd prove so spineless, deserting like a coward. Provoked by me, Zara raised her hand to strike, but I caught her wrist midair and flung her aside with one sharp motion. I used to endure her blows and insults silently. Any resistance would only invite crueler punishments from the stepmother, but those days are over. I leaned down until our faces were level, but for sisterhood's sake, I'll show you a way out. You're just worried Benedict isn't a centurion and won't have men to dig the cellar, aren't you? Squire Lee will be arriving in Emberton soon, but bandits will ambush him on the road. Just save him, and you'll have all the cellar diggers you need. Zara's eyes suddenly lit up. Who is he? The current emperor. The emperor's debauchery is known throughout the realm. My dear sister, what will you do? Zara returned home thoroughly satisfied, just as I had instructed her. She and Benedict rescued the emperor from the bandits through the mystic mirror gifted by Twilight Breeze for my amusement. I saw her swiftly attain the wealth and status she coveted. The mystic mirror is a unique artifact from Phoenix Roost Mountain, capable of viewing any location in the mortal realm. Exceedingly rare, only one exists in the entire world. The emperor, grateful for their rescue, rewarded them with 100 taels of gold and appointed Benedict as a first-class royal guard to remain at court. They returned to the capital in triumph alongside his Majesty, but when the Emperor's depravity turns toward her, will she regret her choices? Worse still, she's accompanied by Benedict, a man far more terrifying than scorching heat. A few days later, Twilight Breeze returned from the Dragon Palace and handed me the Water Spirit Pearl. Never did I expect the rarest Water Spirit Pearl, the Dragon Palace's treasure guarding the seas, would come into my hands so effortlessly. Divine connections do open doors when you place the pearl at Phoenix Crest. Mountain Springhead. An immediate coolness enveloped the entire range like a refreshing barrier. Everything was ready. I looked up at the sky. The sun had seemed larger these days. We couldn't afford to waste time. I began persuading people in Emberton to relocate to Phoenix Crest Mountain. Duskwind asked why I bothered with such trouble when he, as the mountain deity, could simply reveal himself and summon them. I shook my head. Divine beings who disclose celestial secrets face the Jade Emperors. Wrath. After a month of persuasion in Emberton, only impoverished families agreed to follow me into the mountains. The wealthy scoffed at rustic living, arrogantly claiming their riches could overcome any hardship. When my father and stepmother heard of this, they openly mocked me throughout Emberton, ridiculing me for spreading superstitious nonsense and fearmongering. Soon, more and more people in Emberton joined in laughing at me. But I paid no heed, focusing only on saving as many lives as possible. Those I successfully persuaded eventually relocated to Phoenix Mountain within a month. Under the scorching sun, divine retribution arrived as foretold. The sun in the sky suddenly doubled in size, appearing from the ground like a colossal fireball poised to devour the mortal realm. Yet atop Phoenix Roost Mountain, the presence of the water spirit Pearl kept the air refreshingly cool. The grateful villagers who settled here sought to honor us by crafting statues in our likeness. They built a mountain shrine at the foothills, offering daily tributes. Through these mortal offerings, Duskwind's spiritual power grew stronger with each passing day. He channeled his spiritual energy into the mountain spring, amplifying the water spirit Pearl's power until even the surrounding Phoenix Roost Mountain grew noticeably cooler. Reclining on my lounge chair with mountain breezes whispering past my ears, I savored fruits chilled in spring water, sheer bliss, before leisurely activating the mystic mirror. Meanwhile, my noble-born sister languished in a sun-scorched cage below. The glare made her eyes roll back as her lips cracked into peeling layers, her prized porcelain skin now blistered with angry welts. Through the mystic mirror, I watched agony, numbness, and venom twist across her face. Well, Zara, you chose this path yourself. I warned you when I told you he was the Emperor a month ago. She shared her cellar digging technique with the Emperor, never expecting he'd be more captivated by her beauty. The sight of this overweight man in his 60s filled Zara with such revulsion that she even considered disfiguring herself. Her beauty used to be her most prized possession. If I accidentally pulled her hair while combing it, she'd beat me without mercy. A few pimples on her face would mean days without food for me, but Benedict wouldn't let this golden opportunity slip. He seized her, bound her, and delivered her to the Emperor's bedchamber, all to line his pockets with another fortune. Zara was truly stunning, and the Emperor doted on her endlessly. When she suggested digging an underground cellar, he immediately ordered all nearby soldiers to excavate one. Within 10 days, they completed a cellar far grander and more spacious than her previous life's version. She then persuaded the Emperor to stock it with abundant provisions. When the scorching divine punishment descended, the Emperor credited her foresight and elevated her to imperial consort. But the cellar only temporarily withstood the heat. Within days, the relentless breached its defenses. The Emperor, unable to bear the scorching heat and facing growing discontent among troops over cellar excavations and food hoarding, pinned all blame on Zara. He cast her back onto the surface to endure the blistering sun. 3. He was both debauched and cruel, intent on prolonging Zara's torment. The Emperor ensured she wouldn't perish easily. Each day she was exposed outdoors for half a day, then retrieved, a cycle repeated endlessly. When Zara and Benedict first arrived in the capital, they could have used their fortune to hire laborers for the cellar project, but Benedict squandered the imperial reward within days, spending his days in brothels and gambling dens. Meanwhile, Benedict's mother berated and beat Zara at home, accusing her of failing to control her husband. She was no pushover, and the two of them quarreled constantly at home. Every time Benedict returned, he would first beat Zara mercilessly, berating her for disrespecting his mother, then ransacked the house for money to fueled his gambling addiction. Benedict's gambling habit was evident from his usual behavior. The downfall of Benedict's family wasn't just due to his father's failed business ventures. Benedict himself gambled away what remained of their fortune, yet his status-conscious father, unwilling to bear the shame of breaking a promise, refused to annul their long-standing betrothal despite knowing his son's deplorable character. Meanwhile, the stepmother and Zara remained completely in the dark. In our past life, to escape the scorching heat, we took refuge in the cellar with him and his soldiers. Even then, he couldn't kick his gambling habit. With supplies running low in the cellar, he eventually gambled away me. Trapped in a pitch-black corner, I endured nightly violations from a foul-smelling man whose touch made my skin crawl like maggots. Even now, the memory still makes me sick to my stomach. After another fortnight, the collective worship amplified Twilight Breeze's spiritual power. The water Spirit Pearl's cooling effect reached as far as the capital's outskirts. The Emperor was nearly dying of heat in the cellar, and immediately dispatched envoys to Phoenix Mountain to beg the mountain deity for aid. Benedict managed to hide in the cellar by capitalizing on his merit of presenting beauties and being the most vocal in urging the Emperor to punish Zara. Upon hearing the news, he immediately reported our relationship to the Emperor. The mountain goddess happens to be my wife's younger sister. Just say the word, and your majesty could move into Phoenix Perch Mountain at once. I couldn't help but sneer. The sheer audacity of that man. Zara certainly wouldn't miss this opportunity, pleading with the palace attendants to relay her message to the Emperor. Thus, the Emperor immediately dispatched them with court attendants, ordering them to seek me out at Phoenix Perch Mountain first. In the scorching world of their previous life, such a journey would have been impossible, but now, under the protection of the water spirit Pearl and Twilight Breeze, the extreme heat across many regions had significantly abated. They only needed to endure the initial stretch beyond the capital. The further they traveled, the cooler their path would become. Against all odds, they made it through the mystic mirror. I watched them draw nearer until they entered Emberton. To everyone's surprise, Zara returned home intending to retrieve more money, only to discover her father and stepmother's corpses. Upon opening the door, initially, they refused to relocate to Phoenix Perch Mountain, even entertaining thoughts of moving to the capital to find Zara, just one lifetime ago. But when the scorching heat arrived, it was already too late. Having made no preparations beforehand, they could only cower in their homes awaiting death. Only after they perished from the heat did the spiritual energies of the water orb and twilight winds from Phoenix Perch Mountain finally reach Emberton. Witnessing this tragedy, Zara directed all her hatred toward me. Through the mystic heart mirror, I saw her snarl viciously, "That bitch Moira, she's the reason I've fallen this far. I'll kill her." When they finally reached the foot of Phoenix Perch Mountain and saw my statue enshrined in the mountain temple, Zara completely lost control. She smashed my statue in a fit of rage. The villagers immediately bound her up. "Where do you think you're from, daring to disrespect our mountain goddess? If not for the mountain goddess, we'd have all perished from the scorching heat outside. This woman must be out of her mind to vandalize the mountain shrine." Some villagers hastily gathered the shattered statue fragments, kowtowing repeatedly while murmuring, "Forgive our disrespect, mountain goddess." I descended the mountain with Twilight Breeze. I'd intended to meet Zara alone, but he insisted on accompanying me down the mountain, unwilling to let me go by myself. The mountain villagers immediately prostrated themselves in worship upon seeing us. I quickly helped them to their feet. "Please rise, I'm just an ordinary person who doesn't deserve such reverence." The elderly man I assisted exclaimed, "Your Grace, with your merciful heart saving us poor souls in these end times, how could you not deserve our homage?" The crowd murmured in agreement as a little girl took my hand, lisping sweetly, "The fairy sister is so pretty." All this was intensely provoking Zara, who stood nearby, with sudden inhuman strength. She broke free from the ropes, drew a dagger, and lunged at me. Evening Breeze anticipated this. With a casual wave, he conjured a barrier that trapped her, yet the burning hatred in her eyes threatened to consume her entirely as she spewed venomous curses at me. Benedict had been hiding in the corner and didn't intervene when Zara was subdued by the villagers, yet now he suddenly made his move. "You wretched woman, how dare you disrespect the mountain deity and his consort?" With that, he stepped forward and slapped her twice, the sharp cracks echoing through the air. Then he immediately dropped to his knees and begged for mercy. As he kowtowed, Zara suddenly lunged forward from behind, driving her dagger deep into his back. Blood instantly splattered across the scene. Evening Breeze swiftly stepped in front of me and murmured, "Don't look." I raised my eyes. "I'm not afraid. After enduring so much suffering from Benedict in my past life, I'm now determined to watch with wide eyes how these two villains tear each other apart." Stepping out from behind Twilight Breeze, I crouched before them with keen interest. Zara's stab wound wasn't fatal at all. When Benedict turned to glare at her, she trembled and dropped the knife in terror. Benedict fumbled for the fallen blade and raised it to strike at Zara, but Duskwind waved his hand and erected a barrier to stop it. "This temple was built by the people for me and Moira. Naturally, we won't tolerate such filth here." Zara froze for a moment, then immediately scrambled toward me. "Little sister, please, save me, save you. Why should I? Every single thing you've done to me across lifetimes is reason enough to make you suffer. In our past life, I begged you to spare me too. What did you do?" I said no more and turned to leave. Undeterred, Zara called after Mufang once more, "Mufang, you're a deity. Turning a blind eye to suffering invites divine retribution. This is all wrong. I was meant to be your bride. These honors should be mine. I'm the true mountain goddess deserving of worship." That wretched girl was born lowly. How dare she possess what's rightfully mine? No, no, this should all be mine. Her words dissolved into incoherent rambling. How could you ever compare to Moira? With a wave of twilight wind's hand, the two vanished instantly. I gasped. Where did they go? Back where they belong. Through the mystic heart mirror, I saw them being transported back to the capital. They were brought before the Emperor, enraged to learn that the pair had not only failed to persuade the mountain deity to escort him to Phoenix Tree Mountain for refuge but had also offended the deity. The emperor ordered them beaten to death and their corpses thrown out of the cellar. It happened to be the hottest day in recent memory. Within hours, the two bodies were scorched into mummified remains under the blazing sun. Benedict's mother, who was implicated by their actions, was also banished. After days of exposure under the merciless sun, she perished from severe dehydration. The underground cellar dubbed by His Majesty finally succumbed to the scorching heat. In my past life, had it not been for the subterranean river I discovered nearby, that cellar would never have withstood such infernal punishment. The palace servants trapped in the cellar desperately sought escape, realizing they'd roast alive if they stayed, yet the emperor stubbornly refused to leave, unable to bear the blistering sun outside. Once he'd considered fleeing, but the moment he cracked open the cellar door and reached out to check, his hand got scorched and he recoiled instantly. The pampered emperor with his delicate complexion was no match for the palace servants who toiled daily. Many escaped servants fled the cellar and desperately ran toward Phoenix Mountain. As they drew nearer and temperatures dropped, most managed to survive. Seeing so many people reaching the protective range of the water spirit pearl, I began organizing mountain villagers for rescue missions. Everyone responded enthusiastically to the call. Thus, Mufong and I grew ever more revered among the people, with all believing devoutly in the Phoenix Mountain deity and his divine consort. A month later, the Heavenly Emperor finally lifted his divine punishment from the mortal realm. The villagers under our protection returned home and began erecting shrines to the Phoenix Mountain deity, enshrining both Mufong and myself as objects of worship. The Emperor's corpse was discovered in the cellar, his death agonizing, eyes bulging in torment. The final day's scorching heat had roasted him alive like meat in an oven. Trapped when fleeing courtiers sealed the cellar doors, for the old emperor is dead. Long live the new emperor. Among the emperor's sons, the ninth prince was the least favored yet the most benevolent. Time and again, he led his men through scorching heat to rescue those trapped. He was proclaimed the new emperor. When the ninth prince ascended the throne, he not only performed rites to heaven and earth, but also paid special homage to the Phoenix Mountain Temple. On that very same day, the Heavenly Emperor descended upon Phoenix Mountain. For enduring this celestial trial with grace, Mufong earned mortal reverence and abundant offerings. The Heavenly Emperor granted him promotion from earthly immortal to celestial deity. Mufong bowed in profound gratitude. The Heavenly Emperor looked at me and asked what reward I desired. Your Majesty, this humble maiden seeks no reward but one, that divine punishment may never again fall upon common folk. Are you suggesting this deity erred in judgment? Knowing my words had given offense, I immediately knelt in contrition. Evening Wind intervened on my behalf. Your Majesty, Moira acted solely out of compassion for the suffering people. The Heavenly Emperor's wrath manifested as a bolt of divine lightning that struck me, sending excruciating pain through every bone in my body. Evening Wind rushed forward to shield me with his own body. Another celestial thunderbolt came crashing down upon him. Since the dawn of creation, no mortal has dared question my divine judgment. For a mere human, you possess remarkable audacity. He withdrew the heavenly lightning. In recognition of the lives you've saved, I shall grant you only a minor punishment this time. This celestial retribution was decreed by the Heavenly Emperor upon witnessing the endless wars, the Emperor's debauchery, and the people's suffering across the land. The true villains are those parasites and emperors who prey on the people. What crime have the common folk committed? This is not how divine justice should be. The villagers I once saved rushed to Phoenix Mountain upon hearing this, kneeling to plead with the Heavenly Emperor. Yet the Heavenly Emperor had already ascended to the celestial realm, yet the commoners remained kneeling in supplication. Moved by the sea of kneeling figures below, I knelt alongside them. This time, we all demanded justice from the heavens. The evening breeze joined my vigil. Hearing this, other earthly immortals also began petitioning the Heavenly Emperor. The will of the people surged like an endless tide. At last, the Heavenly Emperor manifested once more. Moira, though mortal in form, you've become a deity in their hearts. Since they beseech me, I hereby grant you the title of Mountain Goddess, freeing you from mortal flesh. Though marrying Twilight Breeze granted me longevity, I remained mortal. The Heavenly Emperor's decree has now made me a celestial being. My divine Punishment serves as warning to mortals. Since you plead their innocence, I appoint you to oversee the wickedness of mortal realm. I immediately cowed out in gratitude. Becoming an immortal truly fills one with transcendent vitality. Twilight breeze held me tight, unwilling to let go, and suddenly brought up how I'd saved him that day. Turns out he was just like me, a mortal who ascended to divinity, but he achieved godhood through his own cultivation. He once slew a vicious flood dragon that terrorized the people, also ridding the dragon clan of a scourge, so the Dragon King always remembered this favor. From then on, he devoted himself to cultivation. 2 centuries have passed since, yet his appearance remains frozen at 20 due to his spiritual practice. That was the final heavenly tribulation before his ascension. Withstanding it would make him an immortal. I asked him, must I endure the lash of divine lightning too? He shook his head. You're exempt by the heavenly emperor's decree, but that day I lay unconscious, and upon waking was summoned back to the celestial court before I could thank you properly. I've always felt indebted, yet I remember the scent of herbs that clung to you, etched in my heart, never forgotten. It was by this fragrance I found you, sending the phoenix with our betrothal letter, so his only memory of me that day was a wisp of medicinal aroma. No wonder in our past life, when my elder sister stole my betrothal letter and married him, he never noticed the difference. The herbal scent came from our family's apothecary trade. After spending years alongside my sister in the shop, the fragrance had simply become part of us. I asked why it haunted him so. He lowered his head, cheeks flushed. I'll never forget your life-saving grace. Though I've lived 2 centuries, never has anyone. I quickly averted my gaze from his intense stare. Truth be told, I was just gathering leaves to cover you then. For some reason, my voice trailed off into a whisper. After a long pause, he said to me with a tinge of regret, Moira, we have a marriage certificate, but we've never had a wedding. I hugged him back and said, then let's have one. Our wedding was grand, attended by the celestial emperor, the human sovereign, and the dragon king. Common folk and mountain spirits came one after another with gifts. That day, Mufong and I followed mortal customs by wearing matching red wedding robes, accustomed to his usual white robes that radiated celestial purity. His crimson attire now gave him an unexpectedly dashing mortal charm. He drank too much of the celestial nectar gifted by Rainbow Skirt Fairy, making his flushed cheeks glow vividly under the lantern light. Moira, Duskwind whispered my name with tender affection. 5. By the glow of red candles, I answered in hushed tones, Duskwind, and I still have countless tomorrows ahead. Since that day, the heavenly emperor ceased his divine retribution, while Duskwind and I remained steadfast in our earthly duties. Story 2. My husband won $50 million in the lottery and returned with his first love, announcing he wanted a divorce. He insisted I leave our home immediately and return to my hometown with nothing. Half a month later, a severe heatwave struck, leaving dead bodies everywhere. Meanwhile, I comfortably secluded myself in a well-stocked rural villa, enjoying the air conditioning, eating hot pot, and occasionally savoring some watermelon, thoroughly enjoying my solitude. However, my husband, alongside our son and his first love, were desperately begging in the streets, greedily licking the last drops of water they could find, comforting themselves with the thought, I have money, money can buy everything. I remembered my past life where they locked me in the basement. I died of dehydration, and was brutally dismembered. Money, first, buy back your own life. In the past, I had collapsed from dehydration during a heat wave, awoken only by pain. In a daze, I saw my husband, with our son and his first love, dismembering me and feasting on my flesh. Filled with resentment, a flash of light brought me back to the day my husband asked for a divorce. Violet is pregnant. I'm warning you to stop pestering me. Jason angrily shoved me, his spit flying everywhere, his demeanor suffocating. His first love, Violet, hid behind him, distracting our son with candy and toys. Feeling the air conditioner's cool breeze, the suffocation and pain from my previous death by dehydration and dismemberment had just faded. I took several deep breaths of fresh air. Facing the ferocious Jason, I suppressed the hatred rising within me and agreed to the divorce. He paused, surprised by my easy consent, suspiciously asking, really, you're not playing some trick, are you? I glanced at the calendar on my phone. Only 7 days left before the catastrophic heat wave. Not much time left. Either we go to the civil affairs office now, or I walk away. Jason, your choice. Our son, clearly disgusted, urged, don't mind her tricks, she's too old and ugly to be my mom. If you divorce her, then I can acknowledge Aunt Violet as my new mom. Violet gave a shy, timid look in response. Jason, nearly bursting, hurriedly drove with me to the civil affairs office. Throughout the ride, Jason was gleefully ignorant, and our son didn't even glance at me, clinging to Violet with longing. I drove, struggling to resist the urge to drive them off a bridge at the brink of the apocalyptic heatwave. They had locked me in the basement, left to suffer and eventually dismembered for their consumption. This life, I swore they would pay dearly. During the division of property, I only took my savings cards, amounting to 200,000. Jason couldn't help boasting, "See how good I've been to you. You lived off me for years without paying rent." My heart filled with scorn and contempt. I barely controlled the urge to slap him, considering how agreeable you've been about the divorce. "I'll give you an extra 100,000 to prevent you from ending up homeless and scavenging through trash," he said. I gladly accepted the additional 100,000 transferred from John, and one shouldn't mess with fools, but certainly not with money either, especially since I knew Jason was now very wealthy. 2 days ago, he had won a $50 million lottery and wanted to live with his first love before claiming the prize, which is why he was keen on divorcing me. In my past life, I was unaware of this back then. I desperately tried to hold on to my husband and our third-grade son, fighting to keep my family intact, refusing to let it fall apart. It was only when I saw the intimate photo of Jason and his first love, Violet, posted on social media with the caption, "After years apart, a lifetime of changes, it's still you," that I understood. In the photo, Jason was all smiles, a stark contrast to his usual impatience with me. Thinking about how the family treated me after Violet returned from abroad, my husband mocked and ridiculed me, accusing me of only reaching out to men for money, lacking self-respect and dignity. Our son, still in elementary school, resented me for not letting him play video games or eat snacks, calling me derogatory names. In my past life, I had fought hard to confront them. After giving Violet a slap and furiously labeling her a homewrecker, I found myself locked in the basement by their collusion. A single slap could hardly compensate for the pain I endured in my past life. I want them to suffer 1,000 times more than I did. As we left the Civil Affairs Bureau, I watched my son rush into Violet's arms, with Jason joyfully pulling them together, the three of them laughing smugly as a family. You laugh while you can, soon you won't be able to. After returning home, I immediately began to plan how to buy supplies to protect myself. Halfway through the planning, Jason returned home with our son, seeing his face full of pride and happiness. I guessed he had successfully cashed in the 50 million. I couldn't be bothered with them and continued sketching and writing on my tablet. However, my son ran over to me, demanding, "I want to go on an overseas trip with Dad. Hurry up and pack our stuff. I'm not your nanny. Find someone else to do it." Frustrated, he threw a toy at me, shouting, "You're my mom. You should be slaving away for me, otherwise I'll have Dad beat you." The toy scratched my leg. Looking at my son, so righteous in his anger, I cursed myself for having such a child. Glancing at my ex-husband, he was truly Jason's son, equally selfish. Before having my child, I was an executive at a listed company. However, after his birth, he couldn't be left alone as he would cry incessantly, and we went through several nannies. For his upbringing, I gave up my career and became a homemaker for 10 years. But in my last life, when the heatwave hit, his family enjoyed the resources I had stockpiled, living comfortably even in the heatwave apocalypse. While I lay dying in the basement, I begged my son for a chance to live, to win Violet's affection. He even blocked the ventilation of the basement, letting me faint. I didn't die immediately but watched them plunge a cleaver into my body, and as I lay dying, I heard them greedily shouting, "Quick, get a basin to catch the blood, we can drink it. She weighs over 100 pounds, that'll keep us going for a while." My son was the first to bite into my vein. A slap could open a new horizon. A moment of patience could lead to a peaceful period. I slapped my son, causing his cheek to swell. He lunged at me, attempting to bite and screaming for me to go back to the countryside, but I grabbed him and hit him. Glancing at Jason, who was enjoying the show, I said lightly, "Are you sure you don't want to handle your child? Remember, we're still in the cooling off period. Annoy me, and in 30 days, I'll disappear and you won't get your certificate." He then intervened to smooth things over. "He's your son. What's wrong with packing some clothes for him? Can a child be born by one person alone?" Unable to argue with me, Jason sheepishly packed some t-shirts and shorts, pulling our son, who was making faces at me, out of the door. Before leaving, he melodramatically asked me to stay for a while. I didn't agree. Soon, the city's buildings would face water and electricity cutoffs post-apocalypse, making them useless and prone to attacks from neighbors. In this life, let this place be the Jason family's burial ground. Once Jason and our son left, I tirelessly packed up belongings, rummaging through the basement. During the 3 years of the pandemic, I had developed the habit of hoarding supplies. I had enough food in the basement to last about 3 months. This life, I intended to take everything with me. 20 boxes of mineral water. Water is the scarcest resource in a heat apocalypse. It was essential to take them. 10 bags of rice, 10 bags of flour, 5 tubs of oil. It was a struggle to store all these in the basement initially, but now I urgently called a truck to take them away the various vegetables I had painstakingly cultivated on the balcony. I couldn't leave them behind for that despicable family. Light summer clothes and quilts, who needs clothes and blankets in extreme heat. I packed them into the donation box downstairs, leaving the family only with long-sleeve winter clothes and thick cotton quilts to experience the extreme heat. I also took a hammer from the toolbox and gave the already broken air conditioner a few hard hits, causing it to buzz ominously. I hope their bodies are strong enough to endure 50 degrees without food or water and still thrive. As I was emptying the house, I caught sight of a familiar cleaver. My son loved meat, and this was what I used for chopping bones. I never imagined that in my past life, they would use me as a tool for dismembering and drinking blood. After a brief gaze, I casually took it out from the cabinet and placed it on the kitchen counter. Finally, I looked around the house, which appeared unchanged but was actually empty of supplies. I also ordered some surveillance cameras and had them installed in hidden spots. After finishing up, it was already past 2 p.m. Ignoring the high temperatures outside, I hurriedly packed my things and drove back to my hometown. No, I am alone. My parents passed away one after the other when I was in high school, leaving me a piece of land. The kind-hearted elderly in the village supported me, a female university student, by contributing varying amounts of money. Before having the house built, I was determined and, despite Jason's objections, returned to my hometown to construct this 2-story rural villa. On the day the house was completed, I went door to door to thank and repay everyone with gifts. During the foundation stage, most villagers came to help, not only using the best building materials but also installing 8 solar panels to protect against possible wild animals from the mountains. We not only built a fence but also installed an electric grid around the house. Although it was a 35-degree summer day, I couldn't help but laugh standing in my yard. Thanks to my stubbornness back then, this self-built villa, situated by the mountains and near water with complete facilities, now serves as my stronghold against the high temperatures and a refuge for treating the villagers. With only 2 weeks left before the apocalypse, I started inspecting the villa's hardware. I contacted workers to install a water purification system and also bought several large home-use batteries and portable power banks, ensuring that even if the solar panels failed, we could still get by with our own power generation. We also needed ample cooling sources. Though the house had a complete set of air conditioning systems, I still uneasily purchased several upright fans and compatible humidifiers to ensure we could comfortably enjoy cool air after the apocalypse. Our home freezer was insufficient. I outright bought a row of commercial freezers from the shelves and selected 10 generators. Fortunately, my house was big enough that it didn't feel cramped despite all the stuff. Looking at the spatial arrangement of the house, I called and ordered 5 extra large water storage tanks for home-use fish ponds, a row of breeding cages, and a set of indoor planting tools, waiting for the delivery the next day. After these purchases, my funds were nearly depleted. Without hesitation, I downloaded various loan apps on my phone and secured nearly $1 million after the water purification system was installed. The night had deepened. I hurriedly ate a few bites of food and went to bed, with many tasks still to arrange for tomorrow. Looking at the preparations so far, they were almost complete, so I began preparing daily necessities. Having spent a long time in a basement in my past life, and unsure how long the high-temperature apocalypse would last, I focused on quantity over quality when shopping, seeking the best value for money. At the market, I bought dozens of freshly slaughtered cows, sheep, pigs, and chickens, asking the vendors to neatly categorize them. I also bought a batch of easy-to-care for rabbits and about 20 hens to keep in the yard as fresh meat reserves. Heat-resistant vegetable seeds and fertilizer were also stocked up in the yard by bundles. With time still on my side, I dashed into a wholesale supermarket. First, I bought 400 bags each of rice and flour, then 500 barrels of water. I also threw various spices into the shopping cart by the box. I purchased plenty of instant rice and mini hot pots for quick meals, in case we couldn't cook later. These could still keep us full. With only a week left until the apocalypse, I also bought several boxes of snacks, drinks, and fruits, then various daily chemicals, kitchenware, and dinnerware. When checking out, the store owner was shocked by the quantity, so I had to tell him these were for donation. The owner then happily arranged for delivery of my supplies back to the village. Leaving the supermarket, I recently visited the local fish pond again, purchasing 10 of each of the 5 easiest fish species to raise, as well as some fingerlings, preparing to stock my own fish farm. As I passed by a clothing store, I packed up all the lightweight, quick-drying clothes and also bought some winter clothes just in case. Then, I plunged into the pharmacy, scooping up dozens of boxes of various types of medications, especially those for heat stroke, dehydration, and insect bites. Clearing out Every brand available. I drive a 7-seater vehicle and had to make 3 trips to get all my purchases home. After all the hustle and bustle, I checked my phone to see how the Jason family was doing. As soon as I opened my social media, I saw Jason's big face. It was clear they were having a great time abroad, staying in luxurious hotels that cost thousands per night and eating freshly caught delicious seafood. Even their son received a complete set of video game products from Violet. Seeing the 3 of them so happy, I couldn't help but smile a motherly smile. Enjoy it. Enjoy your last moments of bliss. The next morning, I set out to check on each household in the village to ascertain the number of people and their general preparedness, planning ahead for everyone. This time, I wanted to go through the end of days together with my fellow villagers. There are 53 households in the village, all of whom have been very kind to me. I visited each one, advising them to stockpile supplies, fill their water tanks, and store durable crops like potatoes, sweet potatoes, and taro in their cellars. After returning home, I quickly ordered 2 drones to facilitate the delivery of supplies when the time comes. After some thought, I also ordered several stun guns, although unfortunately, I ran out of money to buy more protective measures over the next few days. I kept organizing supplies and even found time to buy a 1 terabyte iPad, downloading a variety of novels, TV shows, variety shows, and anime for entertainment after the apocalypse. But as the high temperatures from my previous life were supposed to start, there was no change in the weather, and I began to doubt, could it be that with my rebirth, the extreme heat will no longer occur? As much as I didn't want to see the end of days again, thinking of Jason's family surviving with their wealth ignited an inexplicable anger in me. But then, the next day, the weather changed dramatically, and my heart sank. The apocalypse was upon us. Just yesterday, it had rained, but suddenly the temperature skyrocketed. I checked my phone, 11 a.m., 38 degrees, 11:15 a.m., 40 degrees, 12 p.m., 45 degrees. The weather app kept issuing high-temperature red alerts. People online were also lamenting, it's too hot to work, it's not the hard work, it's the cruel fate. 3 people at my company have already been carried out due to heat stroke. This year's temperatures are insane. Maybe it's the end of the world with this high heat. We're all going to be roasted alive. I really want to go home. This terrible weather could kill us any minute. My heart grew heavier, knowing it was indeed happening. In my previous life, it was the same. A sudden rise in temperature the day after the rain, soaring to 55 degrees by the following afternoon and staying high. Many unprepared people died of heat stroke and dehydration. In the comments about the apocalypse, I advised people to stock up on supplies just in case, but it only brought ridicule and sarcasm. Have you gone mad reading novels? Do you really think the end of the world is coming? Another doomsday theory. Can't you hope for something better? In this hot weather, what good are stockpiles if they spoil? Then my comment was deleted by the platform for spreading rumors and maliciously causing panic. Before I could try to continue, my account was banned by the platform. I put away my phone, knowing that truthful advice is often unpleasant to hear. But I hoped my brief response would catch some people's attention. Is Audrey home? Heard you're back from the city. Uncle needs a favor. A voice called from outside my door. I opened the door to find the village chief, who had walked the 15 minutes from the village committee to my house, already drenched in sweat with his cheeks flushed red. A few folks at the village had started working the fields today, fertilizing the crops, but the scorching weather got to them. They suffered heat strokes. I see you have a car. Could you possibly help? I nodded and agreed to drive the villagers around. It was something within my capabilities. During the ride, I kept warning them about the looming apocalyptic crisis. The simple villagers were bewildered by my words and ended up hauling back home a car full of grains and water in a daze. Just as I got home, my phone buzzed with a notification from the surveillance app. Sure enough, it was Jason and his son with Violet returning from their trip abroad. The trio entered and immediately blasted the air conditioning, complaining about this and that, cursing their bad luck with the weather. Their son clamored for ice cream, but Jason just collapsed on the couch, motionless. It was Violet who took out her phone to order delivery, which finally stopped their son's loud cries due to the extreme heat. There were few delivery riders available, and it took 3 hours for the food to arrive. Not long after eating, Jason and Violet retired to their room for some intimate time. What they didn't realize was that when they awoke, they would face a drastically changed world. By then, supermarkets and markets were crowded with people who were aware of the crisis, stocking up on water and food, unsure how long the situation would last. Just like the previous life, the extreme heat arrived as expected. In my last life, I only lived for 3 months. This time, starting anew, I was determined to take control of my own fate. I turned on the air conditioner and humidifier to 26 degrees Celsius, a healthier and more ecologically balanced temperature. Looking out at the plant leaves yellowing from the heat outside, I felt relieved that everything was well prepared. Turning on the TV, the news was filled with reports of various incidents caused by the extreme heat. The southern part of the star-spangled nation faced tornadoes and extreme temperatures. The Amazon rainforest endured persistent high temperatures, causing many animals and plants to faint, and in the Red Circle Nation, thousands had died from heatstroke, leading to halted operations in companies and schools. Beyond a few major chain stores, most other businesses had closed. Online, people were panicking. Some cursed the dreadful weather, others quit their jobs to stay at home and rest, and some began to stock up on essentials, sensing something was amiss, especially at night. Despite the darkness, the temperature showed no signs of dropping. More and more people, to be on the safe side, started going out to buy drinking water. Watching the three still lounging at home under the air conditioning, ignoring the news, I couldn't help but scoff. Violet, nestled in Jason's arms, whispered, "Jason, with everything so chaotic outside, should we also go out and buy some water?" "There's no need. That nagging woman always loves to hoard stuff. The basement has everything. Why risk getting you hurt in a crowded supermarket?" "But I'm carrying your precious son. I want some nice food," Violet complained. Jason, impatiently, tossed his phone to Violet. "With money, we can buy anything, right? Just order a runner." Violet frowned, slightly displeased, while their son quickly grabbed the phone and ordered a bunch of snacks, drinks, and toys for himself. Unfortunately, the weather outside was too hot. Eggs would cook in minutes. Their items didn't arrive until after 10 o'clock that night. I checked the supplies they had ordered, and apart from 3 luxurious Chinese meals, the place was full of snacks, drinks, and toys that only kids would love. Truly impractical stuff. As expected, Jason was still cursing the delivery guy, but his son, dizzy with hunger, grabbed a pack of snacks from the ground and started stuffing them into his mouth. "You're as pathetic as your yellow-faced mother, reincarnated from a starving ghost," he snapped. "I have plenty of money. How could I let you go hungry?" Jason smacked his son on the head, infuriating him to the point that he threw the takeout food at his father. The meal was scattered everywhere, a complete mess, utterly inedible. Violet, however, gently tried to calm the situation, but the resentment on her son's face remained unchanged. "In my past life, Jason left all parenting duties to me. When in a good mood, he'd buy our son some snacks or take him to amusement parks a few times. When not in the mood, he'd complain about the solitary burden of earning for the family and send our son to me. Knowing I was stricter with him, over time, this only made our son despise me more. Now that I'm not there, the two of them are together day and night, and all sorts of conflicts have emerged. Our son, though troublesome, was not dumb. He quickly saw through his so-called good father, with Violet acting as a catalyst and the shadow of survival in a doomed world hanging over them. Their days were far from peaceful. The night was hazy, yet there was no sign of the temperature dropping. In my previous life, aside from searching for supplies in the first month, I mostly stayed in the basement, isolated from the outside world, almost completely unaware of any news, facing an unknown fate this time. My heart was in turmoil, heavy as if weighed down by a stone. However, seeing the ample supplies at home, vibrant with life, I finally breathed a sigh of relief, at least for now. There were no concerns about food or clothing, a far cry from the hardships of my previous life. Time to eat, I thought. Outside, it might be over 50 degrees, but inside, the air conditioning was blissfully cool. I decided to treat myself to a hot pot to welcome the apocalypse. I rummaged through the fridge and pulled up meatballs, tripe, shrimp paste, duck intestines, fatty beef, fatty lamb, tribute vegetables, lettuce, and mushrooms, creating a lavish spicy butter hot pot for myself. Feeling something was missing, I grabbed a chilled Coke from the fridge and took out my iPad to watch something while I ate. Just as I was enjoying my meal, my phone rang. Who could it be at this hour? It was Jason. I turned on the surveillance camera. They were standing in the basement, furious at finding nothing but clutter and not a single bag of rice or flour. "Where's all the food gone? And the air conditioner is a piece of junk. It burned out without hardly being used. Why didn't you get someone to fix it? You wretch, are you trying to kill me?" Jason cursed loudly. "I bought and moved everything myself. Of course I took it with me. Have you ever handled anything around the house?" The air conditioner was secondhand to begin with, always on the fritz. "I told you to replace it. Did you listen? Now suffer," I retorted. "Audrey, you wretched woman, always pinching pennies. No wonder you never make any money." Yeah, I'm poor and proud. You're rich. Go buy a new one then, you idiot." He tried to curse at me again, but I'm no longer the woman from my past life who let him vent without talking back. With a quick press, I hung up the phone. Turning on the surveillance again, Jason tried calling several times, but unfortunately, I had already turned off my phone. Unable to reach me, he stormed back into the basement to search for food, eventually flying into a helpless rage. Unable to do anything, he went upstairs and started berating Violet. "You had one job to manage the house, and you couldn't even handle that," he yelled at her. Violet was stunned into silence by his outburst, thinking your first love isn't so great now. She was the woman you always adored. Annoying. Just spend money to buy more, their son said impatiently while playing with a toy car in the living room. Unimpressed by Jason had no kind words for him either. "With temperatures so high outside, no delivery riders are accepting orders. You make it sound so easy. Why don't you go yourself?" The son nonchalantly pulled out a bag of chips. "If we run out of food, we still have snacks, right? I can just ask my mom to bring some if I get hungry." Jason's face turned red with anger at his son's response. Violet seized the opportunity and kept whispering something to Jason, watching the three of them on the screen, each with their own schemes. "I casually blanched some beef slices, dipped them in sesame sauce, and enjoyed the tender and refreshing taste. The next day, as the temperature soared to nearly 60 degrees Celsius just like in the previous life, most of the leaves in the yard curled up. Despite setting up a straw shelter in advance, it hardly made a difference. I reluctantly harvested the vegetables and stored them in the refrigerator to keep them cool. I turned on the TV, which was continuously broadcasting news urging citizens not to go outside due to the prolonged heat wave. The government was prepared for heavy rainfall and asked everyone to be patient, unsure of what the future held. I tried searching for more information online. I found that people were highly irritable, tormented by the heat, with many lamenting online, "Help! Can someone spare some food? I didn't stock up and now I have nothing to eat." The heat broke my water pipes, and after 2 days, no repair person dares to come. I'll pay $1,000 for someone to deliver 2 bottles of water. Family, my air conditioner broke, and it feels like a huge steamer here. Can someone come and save me? I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, realizing I didn't have the capacity to protect everyone. I could only ensure my own safety and, if possible, look after those around me. With this thought, I sent out a drone for a quick fly around. Every family in the village had stocked up on several months' worth of food and water, and it seemed there were no major issues for now. As the drone flew by, seeing some uncles and aunts waving it brought me a bit of comfort. On the 6th day of the extreme heat, the power went out. The temperature remained steady at a scorching 60 degrees. Such intense heat caused spontaneous fires in many forest areas. With wildfires spreading everywhere, many villages nestled in the mountains were burned to the ground overnight. Tens of thousands had died in the outside world, some from the heat, others from heatstroke and dehydration. Multiple departments issued a joint statement urging everyone to stay indoors and keep cool. The government would drop supplies every 3 days. I accessed the surveillance footage at my ex-husband's house. I saw the 3 of them, gaunt and pale from hunger. Jason, stripped bare, was lying in the bathtub with Violet to cool down. Their son was squeezed onto the floor beside the tub, trying to catch some coolness. When it became unbearable, he dumped his head into the tub to cool off. However, the water in the tub soon became hot and began emitting steam. The son, miserable, writhed on the floor, but Jason and Violet were too preoccupied to care. Violet brought up the subject of supplies. "Brother, we're running low on water and food, and no one outside is taking orders. Why don't you go fetch some from the airdrop? You want me to go out in this heat? Are you trying to kill me? I'll give you money, you go." As Jason and Violet pushed the responsibility back and forth, their son, crying, demanded that Violet go, or he would disown her as a mother. Violet, unwilling, gently rubbed Jason's arm while cooing, "I just got pregnant with your child, and I'm so delicate, I might faint from the heat if I go out, but our little treasure is young, energetic, and strong, he can run fast." Seeing the situation, their son quickly got up from the floor and retreated to his room. Jason cursed loudly before finally pulling out his phone and tapping a few times. I saw a message pop up in the community group, 601 looking to buy water and any kind of food, name your price. As the old saying goes, one should not flaunt their wealth, but Jason, whose brain seems to be waterlogged, acts as if he's inviting a robbery. The heatwave continues. At this time, Jason managed to find some supplies in the neighborhood. The person who provided the supplies, I know him, he's the infamous local troublemaker, Lucy. Unfortunately, the 2,000 yuan Jason offered couldn't even begin to satisfy Lucy's greed. "What, only 2,000? Are you kidding me? Bring me 20,000 and I'll give you the water," Lucy demanded. 20,000 for a few bottles of water and some stale bread. Are you out of your mind? Before Jason could finish his sentence, he was knocked to the ground by a punch from the man opposite him. After being hit, Jason cried out in fear, threatening to call the police, but Lucy just Slapped him mockingly. Ha, in this hot weather, the police won't get here in time to save you. Either pay up, or I'll kill your whole family and eat them. Jason, not daring to confront the towering Lucy, shakily transferred 20,000 yuan via his phone. As he was leaving, Lucy lewdly eyed Violet. Oh, beauty, you're too good for this weakling. Remember, if you're ever starving, come to room 301. I've got food and water. I'll make sure you're fed. As soon as Lucy left, Jason, enraged, lashed out at Violet. You whore, flirting with every man you see. Trying to cuckold me. I always said you were promiscuous. If you dare flirt with another man again, you won't see a cent of my money. Violet was beaten to her knees begging, which finally made Jason stop. Turning around, Jason saw his son gorging himself on the bread and water, crumbs scattering everywhere, not leaving anything for anyone else. Furious, Jason locked his son in the basement, only letting him out in the evening. After this ordeal, the three members of the Jason family completely stopped speaking to each other. I, on the other hand, hummed a tune happily as I prepared to make braised pork, rich and savory with soy sauce, served with northeast rice. I could easily have 3 bowls. As I was enjoying my meal, an alarm from my home security system went off. The village chief, accompanied by several younger uncles, stood at my doorstep, carrying tools like hoes and axes. The malice I felt during the apocalypse in a previous life sent a chill from the soles of my feet. Ding dong. The doorbell rang again. Jason Lin, it's Uncle Village Chief, open the door for me. The chief's voice, once warm and friendly, now sounded terrifying. I grabbed an electric baton before heading to the gate to inquire about the matter. Hearing my response, the village chief anxiously explained, with this heat, I'm worried the trees on the hill might catch fire. We're taking advantage of today's slight cool down to clear a fire break. A few people are suffering from heat stroke and can barely hold on. Do you have any medicine for heatstroke? After observing the hill through binoculars and seeing a cleared area, I relaxed and brought out a large bag of medicine. However, the village chief pulled out a few vials of herbal medicine from the box, pushing the rest back into my hands. We have enough with these. Keep the rest for yourself. Times are uncertain. After saying that, he left with his group. Watching the back of the village chief as he walked away, I felt a pang of melancholy. How much longer will this heat last, and how long can this mutual assistance continue? I placed the electric baton by the door, then went back inside to sleep. I'm unsure if my kindness is right in this apocalyptic setting and feel somewhat alienated being so wary of everyone, but the apocalypse truly can change a person beyond recognition. Another half a month passed, and the temperature outside still ranged between 55 to 60 degrees Celsius, with the air growing drier and the village's situation worsening. Despite the village chief's daily broadcasts of news to boost everyone's spirits, some people still collapse due to food shortages. To help the villagers, my drone flies out every day carrying food from house to house, always bringing back some potatoes and sweet potatoes that the elderly had sent with it. The village chief also wrote me a note advising me to keep a low profile and pay more attention to myself. These actions warmed my heart, and I felt increasingly that returning to the village was a wise decision. Just then, a message from the Jason's family surveillance system eased the hatred in my heart. At this moment, Jason looked deathly pale, with a bluish tinge to his cheeks, as if his end was near. Surprisingly, Violet and their son seemed mostly unchanged. After reviewing the surveillance footage carefully, I discovered that the day after Huang arrived, she had sneaked out of the house. She returned over an hour later, disheveled, carrying a small bag of bread and 2 bottles of water, and happened to run into her son. Violet used the bread and water to bribe her son into keeping watch while they both enjoyed the food. How could I allow Jason to starve while the rest of his family did not? I carefully chose several angles to take photos of the 4 dishes and a soup I had, along with an icy Coke, and then posted them to a social media feed that only Jason could see. It wasn't long before Jason called me. As soon as I answered, I was met with a deafening roar. Audrey, where are you, and how can you still be drinking Coke? Pretending to be puzzled, I replied, Coke, haven't you had any? Jason persistently asked where I was, but I ignored him and deliberately gulped down my Coke loudly. Jason fell silent on the other end, then began to speak in a softer tone, pleading, Wife, I was wrong. I was blinded by that bitch Violet. I now realize you are the most important woman to me. My son and I miss you terribly. Could you bring some food to visit us? I couldn't help but sneer. So, you remember my kindness only after you've finished cursing me? I've stocked up so much food at home, and yet your whole family expects me to rescue you. Go eat shit. Food, what food? Before Jason could finish, I hung up the phone and immediately deleted the social media post. Let them torment each other. In my previous life, none of the 3 were innocent of my tragic death. In this life, how could I let them thrive? After I hung up, Jason, furious, threw his phone onto the sofa and began searching the house for food. Sure enough, he found a lot of small bread under the sofa. Jason stuffed the bread viciously into his mouth and gulped down a bottle of mineral water. "The two of you bitches, eating behind my back. This is what my wife left for me." He ate and drank, quickly finishing the few small pieces of bread. Violet, coming out of the bedroom, trembled. "What do you mean your wife? That was earned by me. Leave me some." Jason glared at Violet. "Earned? Where did you earn it from? Wait, did you fucking go and sell yourself?" Violet's eyes darted around. "I didn't. Not on purpose. We had nothing to eat. I was so hungry, and I just," her son exclaimed. "It wasn't me, it was her. That bitch willingly went." Her son tried to explain further, but Jason knocked him out cold with a slap. "I don't care whose idea it was." He sinisterly stared at Violet. "You're my woman, carrying my child. You have me in your heart, only after the apocalypse can we live well, isn't that right?" Violet, trembling, nodded and helped Jason drag her son into the basement. From that day on, Violet frequently went alone to the third floor, always returning with a bit of food. Jason had food, but he couldn't care less about Violet, focusing only on eating the lion's share himself and casually throwing some leftovers to Violet to fill her stomach. His mental state was deteriorating. Just a day after beating Violet, he knelt on the ground claiming he had money. "I'll always make sure Violet gets the best of everything," pleading with her to hang in there a little longer. As Violet's belly grew larger, her body rapidly thinned out. In the surveillance footage, she huddled in a corner, gnawing on bread, her eyes dark and venomous as she stared at Jason. It seemed their day of mutual destruction was drawing near. 2 months had passed since the heatwave subsided, and turmoil had struck the Jason family. After finishing a dry piece of bread, Violet reached out for water, but Jason slapped her hard. "You filthy whore, there's only so much water and you still want more." Her hair disheveled, Violet threw whatever was at hand towards Jason in rage. "This is the water I earned. I can drink as much as I want." "Earned? You think prostituting yourself is something to be proud of?" As Jason spoke, he guzzled down a bottle of water. Violet lunged to snatch it but only managed to lick a few drops from the bottom. She broke down completely. "You waste. I worked hard for that water and you didn't leave a drop for me. All you care about is your own survival. Have you ever thought about me and the child in my belly? You keep saying you have money. What good is your money now?" Jason's eyes bulged as he muttered, "I have money. I can buy anything. What's the big deal about drinking some water?" Violet, teary and scratching at Jason's face, screamed, "What's the big deal? That's the water I traded for. Spit it out and give it back." Jason, panicked, flipped over and pinned Violet down, choking her. "You filthy whore, I should be grateful for the dirty water you bring. You bring back so little it's not even enough to fill the gaps between teeth. It's all your fault. If my wife were here, this would never happen." Violet, nearly suffocating, kicked Jason fiercely in the groin. The pain made Jason shiver and involuntarily release her. She rushed to the kitchen, grabbed a cleaver from the counter, and struck Jason hard, blood spurting instantly. "Your wife, with a loser like you, she wouldn't even glance your way. Let me tell you the truth, the child in my belly isn't even yours. If it weren't for your damn money, no one would bother with you. I'm going to Brother Huang now. Leave me alone." Enraged, Violet retreated towards the door, her hands trembling with the knife. In a swift turn, Jason overpowered her and seized the cleaver. He raised it high and plunged it into Violet's neck. Violet, incredulous, fell to the ground with wide eyes. Jason, driven mad, repeatedly stabbed and withdrew the cleaver. Only when Violet lay motionless did Jason, as if waking from a nightmare, drop the knife. He sat dazed on the floor for a moment before dragging his semi-conscious son from the basement. The son, barely awake and unable to scream, was pressed by Jason against Violet's wound. Jason laughed maniacally. "Drink up, son, there's water in the blood too." She was over 100 pounds. "Enough for both of us." The son, initially resistant, was too dehydrated and, eyeing the blood, swallowed. The sound of gulping water echoed in the living room. I felt nauseous watching, yet strangely satisfied. My revenge was finally bearing fruit. These blood-drinking demons wouldn't escape, I sneered. "I've always liked to stock up. What's it to you if I have a lot of stuff at home?" Jason's eyes lit up, and he nudged his son, who reluctantly apologized. "Mom, please drive over to pick me and Dad up. I won't speak ill of you again." I casually tossed aside the ice cream stick and grabbed a Coke to drink. "Aren't you the one who said Violet was your real mom? Why should I come to your rescue just because you ask?" My son was stunned, and so was Jason. The next second, Jason punched his son in the face. "It's all your fault, you ungrateful brat. I might as well have raised a piece of roast pork, having been pampered from a young age." My son couldn't take this insult and lashed out at Jason with punches and kicks. "You're the one who taught me to recognize Violet as mom. It's all your fault I don't have ice cream. If you keep spouting nonsense, I'll devour you too, Jason said as he pulled his son away and made him apologize to me. Wife, I really know I was wrong. It was all my fault for being foolish, letting Violet and that heartless creature trick me together. The child in Violet's belly isn't mine. I've already kicked her out. You're the one I've always loved the most. Just come and pick me up. And I promise to have a good life with you from now on. My son, with a crumpled little face, tried to act cute in front of the camera. Mom, I know I was wrong. You're the best in the world. Please come and save your baby. I scoffed impatiently. Do you think you two are so desirable that I would come to rescue you? One a selfish ingrate who switches loyalty for comfort, the other a lust-driven fool, only seeing a piece of meat in his mind. You expect me to save you with that attitude? Kneel down and slap yourselves until I'm satisfied, Jason gave me a venomous look and, grinding his molars, slapped himself hard, his cheek immediately turning red. My son, not to be outdone, quickly followed suit. After watching them for a while, I grew bored. Stop it. As soon as I spoke, two swollen faces excitedly looked up at me. I'm not quite satisfied. I suggest you two die and then come to me. They both exploded in anger. Jason moved close to the camera, viciously saying, You bitch. How dare you play me? Don't let me catch you, or I'll eat you alive. My son also shouted, You unworthy woman, you don't deserve to be taken care of by me. Waiting for you to take care of me is like waiting to collect your corpse. I took a sip of my ice-cold Coke, belching loudly. By the way, catching me isn't hard. I'm just at my old home, a 3 to 4 hours drive away. I didn't continue listening to their curses and hung up the phone with such high temperatures outside. I was curious to see if they had the guts to come. I waited at home. A month passed, and neither Jason nor our son showed up, but I did receive an airdrop of heat-resistant, fast-growing crops from the National Agricultural Science Institute. The day I planted the seeds, my son called, crying for me to save him, as his father was about to eat him. It hurt, as he was still a piece of me, but remembering his coldness in the past, I shook my head and ignored him. A week later, electricity started to sporadically return. I accessed the surveillance system and saw that the house was lifeless. Reviewing the footage, I saw Jason consuming meat in the basement for days, depleting all our reserves. Then he staggered out of the house and never returned. I opened a bottle of red wine, celebrating my deep revenge and rebirth. On the day the crops were harvested, the temperature finally dropped to normal. The government sent troops immediately to repair the electrical grid and distributed massive supplies. Our village, united and cooperative, did not suffer a single death, and under the village head's leadership, began aiding surrounding towns, though it was unclear if the disaster was truly over. Like always, united we stood, and brighter days would come. A new year arrived, the extreme heat finally ended, and social order slowly returned to normal. I drove back to that once home. Opening the door, I found 2 skeletons covered in bite marks, already decomposing. I called the police and submitted 2 surveillance videos. It was the footage of Jason killing Violet and our son. If Jason was dead, good. If not, he would face the law. Justice might be delayed, but it would never be absent. 3 days later, the police found Jason's mummified corpse by the roadside on the way to my house. With the death certificate in hand, I went to the civil affairs office.